Just like any other day, our heroine was diligently focused on her waitressing job at a small diner. Suddenly, a voice called out to her, Hilzer. Hilzer opened her large, round eyes and turned her head to look. She had a very striking appearance with bright blonde hair and unusual purple eyes. But the biggest trouble was the drunk old man who had just called her. He used a perverted tone to tease Hilzer. This dress of yours is a bit loose, and it doesn't show off your curves. Your butt is so nice. Not only that, he performed even more ridiculous acts. Come here and sit with me. This made Hilzer grimace in annoyance. She looked at the pervert in front of her with contempt and silently recalled the story. The story was that this guy was the only son of the ruler of this area. He had been harassing Hilzer relentlessly since her mother passed away a year ago. Hilzer placed the beer on the table and bluntly rejected him. I'm busy. However, he just smirked and said, come on, I know you're free. Hilzer recalled a few more stories about him from before. He came and proposed to me right in front of everyone at the restaurant where I work. Once, he even spread a rumor that he and I had gone out together, causing her colleagues to gossip. I thought she didn't like him. Are those rumors true? Hilzer, of course, heard them and refuted their words. Of course not. Not only that, he did many more impolite things. Hilzer felt disgusted every time she remembered, and he would touch my shoulder and leg and act like it was just an accident. I've rejected him countless times and even tried getting angry with him, but it was no use. Hilzer had had a headache over this many times. Sure, I'd love to become a noble, but ironically, he was 32 years old. He's a whole 12 years older than me. He's an annoying obsessive, and his hairline is even receding. So she told herself it was best to just ignore him. But as life would have it, he wouldn't let her go that easily. As soon as he saw her walking away, he flew into a rage and yelled, Hey, where do you think you're going? The pervert even brazenly ran up and grabbed Hilzer's wrist. With some alcohol in him, he became more aggressive than usual. He belligerently threatened her. Listen here, you'd better stop with that arrogant and insolent attitude. My patience has its limits. Hilzer thought irritably, What? You're the insolent one. If your father wasn't the boss of this area, I would have already smashed your head with this beer mug. You psycho. Hilzer angrily retorted at him immediately. Let go of me. I'll make you regret it if you keep harassing me. But her words didn't get through to him. He became even more furious. He grabbed her hand, twisted it tightly, and yelled, You'll make me regret it? What are you going to do? Hilzer was, after all, a delicate girl. She tried to remain calm, even though her hand was in great pain, and said to him with a tremble, You're hurting me, let go. The guy still wouldn't let go, even twisting it tighter and spouting extremely unpleasant words. You think I can't do what I want if I get serious? I'm sick of playing games with you. You should be grateful that I'm interested in you. Hilzer's endurance also had its limits. The pain became unbearable, and she flew into a rage, screaming back at the bastard. I said it hurts. Without a single wasted motion, Hilzer brought her leg up and kicked his family jewels, then cursed. Damn this pervert. The kick was so fast and powerful that he couldn't dodge it. He could only feel that his little guy had been somewhat damaged. Right after landing the kick, Hilzer suddenly felt extremely thrilled. Oh, she was both proud and impressed with herself. Good heavens, that was so fast and accurate. Money did a great job, but seeing him clutching his crotch, writhing in pain on the ground, Hilzer was startled into realization. Everyone in the diner had witnessed the whole scene in uncensored high definition. Hilzer became extremely worried. She thought to herself, I'm dead. Everyone here knew his face, so when they saw that scene, everyone fell silent, worried for her fate and also cringing for him. As for Hilzer, only now did she realize the consequences of her impulsive action. She broke out in a sweat. Her heart pounded with worry for her future. Oh God, no way. I'm done for. I just kicked the son of a noble family there. What if he becomes infertile because of this? I'm so dead. Suddenly, Hilzer had a thought. She stopped in her tracks and took a step forward. If that's the case, the bastard was startled when he saw Hilzer advancing. He trembled in fear and said, What do you want? Why are you staring at me like that? Hilzer's gaze gradually became inhuman. The man screamed in terror. Stop! Don't come near me! Stop! But no one here stopped Hilzer. He could only tremble and look up at her in terror. Hilzer acted as if she had nothing left to lose. She looked at him one last time and made a decisive move. Maybe I could just finish him off. The pervert's blood-curdling scream echoed everywhere. It echoed from the diner all the way to the noble's prison. Of course, Hilzer was arrested for her actions. She was now locked in a cell, awaiting trial. Only now did Hilzer realize the consequences. She was stunned and thought to herself, I'm done for. They'll probably sentence me to death. She tore her hair, absurdly blaming the pervert. Why didn't his father make his son wear metal underwear or something? Gosh, in that lecture too, why didn't he protect his own private parts? After a bout of frantic madness, Hilzer's mood shifted to depression. She sat huddled up, pondering. I don't know which way is worse, biting my tongue to commit suicide or being beheaded. Suddenly, at that moment, the guards came to take her away. Hilzer Ruth, you will come with us. At the trial, Hilzer was brought before the father and son. She cautiously raised her head to assess the situation. Hilzer saw his cowering figure perched on the throne and couldn't help but wonder. What's he doing here? Shouldn't he be in his bed right now? He surely wants to see my head roll off my neck. Suddenly, her sharp eyes spotted something. It turned out she was drawn to the man standing beside him. Hilzer wondered to herself, who is that man standing next to his father? His appearance made Hilzer exclaim in admiration. He's so tall with those broad shoulders. Oh, and that baby soft skin makes his black hair stand out even more than others. The part of Hilzer that crushed on handsome men suddenly awakened. She was extremely curious. Who is this handsome man? As an optimist who loves handsome men, Hilzer felt truly satisfied. She rejoiced silently. Wow, I'm so lucky to see something so wonderful before I die. Then Hilzer even compared herself to him. I've heard my mother say many times that my blonde hair and purple eyes, just like hers, made me look elegant, but he is on another level. He looks so calm. Lost in thought, she was startled by the old man's shout. Hilzer Ruth. The pervert's father spoke up to question Hilzer. Do you have any thoughts on what you have done? Hilzer turned her face away in contempt, thinking to herself. Actually, I was thinking about something more important, old man. But it's true that my life is more important after all. Hilzer took a deep breath. She kowtowed to apologize with a very sincere expression. Please forgive me, sir. I didn't mean to do it. It was just an accident. Seeing her subservient posture, the pervert sneered at her. But a leopard can't change its spots, and Hilzer's mad dog nature suddenly flared up again. Her mouth moved faster than her brain as she confronted the father and son. Just like when your son groped me and said it was an accident, which made the two of them gasp in surprise. What did you just say? With the mindset that she was going to die anyway, Hilzer didn't hesitate to argue back. If cases like that are accidents, then this was just an incident. All I did was refuse your son when he did things that crossed the line with me. Hilzer even hit a nerve with a question. You don't want me to become your daughter-in-law, do you? He was so angry he wanted to jump out of his chair and answer Hilzer. What, of course not. Hilzer didn't hesitate any longer and sealed the deal. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I don't want it to happen at all either. Your son is not only stupid, but also ugly. Furthermore, he's old and going bald. Hilzer unleashed all her pent-up frustration and cursed the guy to his face, right in front of his father. Hey, you lecher, what made you think you had a chance with me? As soon as the curse left her lips, the entire room fell silent. The handsome man still had his face hidden. The pervert and his father still had the same bewildered and shocked expressions as before. As for Hilzer, she suddenly realized the consequences of her actions for the third time that day. What am I doing? I was just begging for forgiveness. Suddenly, at that moment, the handsome man couldn't hold it in and let out a laugh. The scene there became silent for a second time. Hilzer frowned in confusion, silently judging. He's laughing. There's a high chance I'm going to die, yet he finds it funny. It seems that to cover his embarrassment, the man spoke up. After hearing her story, I don't think this lady has done anything wrong. Hearing him defend her, Hilzer's expression changed. She thought in surprise, is he on my side? And why did he call me a lady? No one has ever called me that before. The old duke was just as bewildered to hear that. He turned to object, Viscount Charles, but was immediately interrupted by the man. She just didn't want to be harassed by your son. I'm also quite curious as to why he persisted when she clearly had no interest in him. The duke stood up in anger and argued, but violent actions cannot be justified, and Hilzer was no pushover either. She immediately retorted, excuse me, but he was the one who used violence. On me first. She held up her red, swollen hand as evidence while complaining. The BAS, I mean your son grabbed my wrist and twisted it. Look, my wrist is all bruised. Seeing this, the Viscount nodded in agreement. Then it was just self-defense. The Duke still refused to accept it and argued stubbornly, self-defense? My son almost lost his ability to produce an heir for us. The Viscount seemed unwilling to argue much with him and shot them a warning look. Then he concluded the matter before the Duke's astonished eyes. I think the important thing here is the fact that your son harmed this young lady. But I know that you're also under a lot of pressure. What do you think about us covering up this incident and forgetting everything that happened? He immediately adopted a subservient attitude and replied softly, "Can't you see how seriously my son was injured?" But the man maintained a firm tone in his reply. "We can discuss this all night to determine who is right and who is wrong, but that's only if you're willing to make Duke Pejo your enemy." Despite this, he stubbornly argued further. "But how do you know she is the one he is looking for?" The Viscount replied, "I know she is the one, so please stop being so rude." The conversation between the two of them was drifting further and further away, leaving Hilzer confused. What is going on? I think they're talking about me, but I don't understand what they're talking about at all. Suddenly, their eyes met. The handsome man took the initiative to step forward, kneel before her, and introduce himself. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Logan Charles. It is a pleasure to meet you." Hilzer's reason was clouded by his beauty. She could only gaze at the treasure before her and sigh in admiration. "Wow, he's even more handsome up close." Viscount Charles continued, "You don't need to worry about anything, Lady Hilzer." Being able to look at and listen to the handsome man speak made Hilzer feel like she was on cloud nine. His voice is like an angel's, so noble. And suddenly she realized, wait a minute. Hilzer thought back to what he had just said. "Lady Hilzer. Who? Is he talking about me?" And so the story officially begins. In a world where having powerful magic means you carry royal blood, Lucia Pejo was one of the best mages. She was born to one of the 4 great dukes of the empire, and she was a person who followed her own heart. The duke had once pointed straight at Lucia's face and scolded her mercilessly. "You're crazy. This could have been a perfect opportunity for you to become the empress. How are you going to deal with all the rumors among the upper class that you only care about other people's looks?" Suddenly, Lucia burst out laughing, startling the duke. "Ah, with this face, they can't say that about me. Why should I care about the gossip behind my back?" The duke was furious. "Are you rejecting the crown prince's proposal just because he's not your type? Do you have any idea what it means to be the wife of the future emperor?" Lucia calmly replied, "If you want to be the empress so badly, why don't you marry him yourself?" The duke was truly angered by Lucia. He shot his feet. What? This crazy daughter. Anyway, Duke Pejo and the royal family ignored Lucia's opinion and still tried to proceed with the wedding. Lucia gave up and thought about running away because of it. That night, the entire mansion echoed with desperate calls. "Lady Lucia, where are you?" And it turned out Lucia had run away with a gardener. That man was just a commoner, but he was super handsome. Back to the present. After I escaped a near-death experience, this handsome Viscount came to visit me early in the morning. Hilzer had to ask herself, how does he know where I live? And it's been 30 minutes since I started listening to him tell an old story in my kitchen. Hilzer spoke up, "So what you mean is, that runaway lady is my mother, and the gardener is my father?" Logan smiled elegantly, exactly. His answer made Hilzer fall into deep thought. "My father was a good-looking man, but he wasn't very reliable or smart at all. He wasn't very healthy either, so he passed away when I was young and couldn't provide for the family. But I remember one thing my mother told me. Hilzer, your father was a very, very handsome man, and for that reason alone, he was a wonderful husband." Hilzer frowned deeply. "Anyway, that's not the point. So, in short, I am the granddaughter of Duke Pejo, right?" Logan still replied succinctly, "That's right." Hilzer felt overjoyed. She covered her mouth tightly to keep from screaming. "Wow, this is crazy. I can't believe it. I'm a noble. I knew there was something special about me. It turns out it's because I come from a noble family." Logan spoke up anyway. "Do you believe what I'm saying?" Hilzer thought for a moment, then said, "I'm trying to process all this information, but it does sound like you're talking about my mother." Logan was a little surprised. "What makes you so sure? Is it because of the part where I said Lady Lucia was the best mage?" Hilzer didn't hesitate to speak ill of her mother in front of someone else. "No, it's the fact that she only cared about the appearance of others. Anyway, Sir Charles." Logan corrected her. "It's Charles. Logan's Charles." Hilzer tilted her head and said, "I'm sorry, Sir Charles. I believe a thank you is in order. You saved me yesterday. But how did you find me? You even appeared right at that spot." Logan answered honestly, "Because I have been watching you." Hilzer was startled by Logan's confession. "Since when have you been watching me?" "Oh, was it since I got arrested for hitting Finter?" Logan replied, "Even before that." Hilzer's face was now utterly bewildered. "So, have you been watching me since my mother died last year?" Logan answered boldly, "Even before that." Hilzer fell silent. She thought to herself, is he a stalker? He's handsome, sure, but I don't want to be a victim of stalking. Logan cleared his throat to dispel tell the awkward atmosphere. The Duke found Lady Lucia 7 years after she ran away and asked if she would come home. Unfortunately, Lady Lucia refused. Hilzer panicked like a puppy that lost its food. What? Why? Did he try to force my mother to marry the crown prince even though she was already married? Is that the reason? Logan cut her off. That's not the reason. Lady Lucia didn't want her husband and daughter to be treated unfairly by those in the upper class. Hilzer turned away, slightly offended. So that's it. If I grew up around people like that, they would probably look down on me because my mother married a commoner. But they'd still look down on others like that when you're poor. If that's the case, isn't it better to be a noble? At least. Logan continued to tell Hilzer, in the end, I was ordered to watch over you from a distance, to ensure your safety. Hilzer frowned. She told him her story. My mother had lung cancer. By the time my mother was diagnosed, it was already too late. But it seems the Duke didn't even bother to save his own daughter. So why did he just watch me go through that? Why did he have such a change of heart? Logan replied seriously, the thing is the Duke has always wanted to meet you directly, but I oppose that idea. Hilzer was so surprised she shot to her feet. What? How could you? Logan answered honestly. Lady Lucia said that she had never been happy living as a noble woman and wanted nothing to do with the Apejo family. She even wrote a letter to the Duke, hoping he could keep her identity a secret. I respected her decision, but you were in danger, so I had to intervene. Hilzer said to him, I'm sure my mother had her reasons, but I don't completely agree with them. Logan suddenly asked Hilzer, do you still want to be a part of the Apejo family, my lady? Hilzer didn't answer right away. She continued to think, of course I do. Who wouldn't want to be a noble? How could I refuse such an offer? Logan asked her again, even if life as a noblewoman is not what you imagine, you will not be welcomed by the members of the Apejo household or other nobles. Hilzer argued with him, I will be the one to decide that. Logan replied, just as firmly, you will be bullied and insulted with no one on your side, and there will be times when your own family will threaten your life. Hilzer still wouldn't compromise. I know. Logan cut her off. No, you wouldn't be able to accept this offer so easily if you truly understood. Logan's questioning instantly deflated the spirited Hilzer. I don't understand why he's angry with me. Is it because he doesn't want me to become part of the Apejo family? Or maybe he thinks I'm not qualified to be a noble. Just thinking about it made her feel annoyed. He doesn't know what it's like to be a commoner at all. She asked him, do you think Finter would have harassed me if I were a noblewoman? Do you think his father would have listened to you if you weren't born into a noble family? They would never have let me go if I wasn't related to Duke Apejo. That's the kind of power I need, but I bet you can't understand because you're already powerful, disrespect, power, and ridicule. I've always had to get used to these things because I'm a young woman living alone, yet he expects me to pass up an opportunity like this because he doesn't think I can handle it. Logan suddenly sighed and exclaimed to Hilzer, no, I do understand. Anyway, I think we're getting a bit off topic. The Duke wants to see you because he thinks you might have inherited Lady Lucia's power. Hilzer never expected her fortunes to turn so suddenly. This means if I really have powers like my mother, then I could be accepted as part of the Apejo family. Logan replied in a low, warm voice. Things could also go the other way if you didn't inherit any power from Lady Lucia. The Duke will order me to stop watching you, which also means I won't be able to help you like I did yesterday. Hilzer clutched the hem of her dress. What? It means the Duke wants me around as long as he can profit from me. She unconsciously blurted out, he's so heartless. If I don't have any power, I can go home anytime. But what if I do? My mother once told me that Lady Lucia said, Hilzer, once you move forward, there's no turning back for you. I have nothing to lose anyway. Seeing her contemplating, Logan grew a little worried. The Duke doesn't want to see you for fear that some grandfatherly affection might develop, my lady. Do you still want to be a part of the Apejo family? Still, Hilzer lowered her eyes for a moment. Then, as if gathering courage, she looked up, of course. It was a 4-day carriage ride to the Duchy of Hebron, where Duke Apejo ruled. But we didn't stop even once, as if Logan was trying to get back in less than 4 days, so I had to sleep in the carriage. Of course, I couldn't be upset, because this trip was too wonderful. No, I have to take that thought back. Hilzer sat up abruptly. She saw Logan still seriously reading a book on the opposite side. I can't sleep because the road is too bumpy. Moreover, Logan isn't sleeping at all. It's not that I'm uncomfortable sharing a carriage with a man, but I have to say, this guy doesn't even want to sleep, my God. Hilzer lamented, Aren't you sleepy? Why don't you get some rest? Logan was startled. Only then did he look up at Hilzer. Ah, I'm fine. You don't need to worry about me. I can stay awake for several days without sleep. Hilzer clutched the hem of her dress. She just sat there and glared at him. I know you're fine, but I'm not. Who knows what I'll do when I'm asleep? I might snore, grind my teeth, and maybe even talk in my sleep. We just met, and I don't want him to see those things. The carriage continued to move along the bumpy road, and from inside, the steady sound of Hilzer's snoring could be heard. Snore, huh? Snore, few. Ha, snore. Logan stopped looking at his book. Instead, he looked up towards Hilzer. She was still sleeping soundly when she was suddenly startled by the carriage jolting. Hilzer felt quite guilty. Oh no, I think I was just snoring. Logan was silent for a moment. Then he acted as if nothing had happened and continued reading his book. I can still bear it. His answer made Hilzer jump. What? She was so embarrassed she had to cover her face with a blanket. What kind of answer is that? Couldn't he just say outright that I was snoring? Unbelievable. I thought I wouldn't get sleepy. I thought what I did on the first day we met was already embarrassing enough, but maybe I was wrong. Oh my God, this is so humiliating. Thinking this, she secretly glanced at him again. But what made me even more mad was that Logan was too good at pretending when I had done so many stupid things in front of him. We both haven't bathed in 2 days, but how on earth does he still look so clean and polished? His hair is even fluttering as if he just got out of the shower. Hilzer turned away, so unfair. She yawned wearily. Anyway, I don't want to do anything else embarrassing. She kept nodding off, probably because she was so sleepy. Very quickly, Hilzer lay down again and slept. Even she didn't expect to do that. Whatever, it's probably too late now. The next morning, the two arrived at a very bustling place. Noble lovers walked together, their conversations making the street noisy. Everyone was in pairs. Hilzer suddenly felt very nervous. Her heart pounded. This place must be several times bigger than where I live. Being a waitress in a big city like this must pay a lot. She unconsciously shook her head to banish that thought. No, I'm the granddaughter of Duke Apejo. I shouldn't be happy about things like a waitress's salary. Logan, on the opposite side, suddenly spoke. Don't worry yet. We still have a little way to go. Hilzer quickly transformed back into a gentle and kind girl. Right, a noble woman must always be calm and elegant. Logan suddenly threw cold water on her. I think you should fix your hair first. Hilzer's face scrunched up. She anxiously clutched her hair. Hilzer shyly smoothed a few strands of hair and said, My mother used to say that true elegance and beauty come from within. Logan smiled gently and stood up. He quickly moved to her side, startling Hilzer. She thought to herself, that startled me. He makes my heart beat faster every time he gets close to me, but with no warning at all. It's all because of that handsome face. And what's that sweet smell? It seems to be coming from him. Logan suddenly pulled out a comb from inside his clothes. Then he turned and asked her, Could you look out the window so I can comb your hair, my lady? Hilzer hesitated, but my hair is very greasy. Logan said nonchalantly, I know. Hilzer still held a little hope that he wouldn't comb her hair for her, but this is so embarrassing. Logan quickly brought the comb up to brush her hair. It's too late to think like that, don't you think? Heiress was silent. She silently retorted in her heart. How mean, he could have just said everything was fine and let me keep my dignity. It's so nice to have someone brush my hair when no one has done it for me since my mother passed away. Logan was extremely gentle. He brushed and stroked her hair. Logan smiled and said, You look like you're enjoying it, huh? Heiress replied with dissatisfaction. You could say that. Oh, but have you ever brushed anyone's hair before? Logan held her head steady. He said, Please sit still. Your hair will get tangled again. I have a long-haired dog at home. Heiress glared at him resentfully. A dog? Are you comparing my hair to that dog? Logan, however, felt no guilt whatsoever. I was just answering your question. Heiress swallowed her anger, her face turning ashen, not knowing whether to feel insulted or reassured. Logan's voice cut through her thoughts. All done. Heiress gently touched her hair. Wow, you're really good at this. Is there anything you can't do? Do you have any weaknesses or anything? Logan looked straight in her eyes and replied, No, I don't. Heiress frowned in exclamation. Tisuke, how annoying. One day I'll find his weakness. That would only be fair, right? Can I meet my mother's siblings when I get to the Apejo Manor? I heard that my mother had 2 older brothers and a younger sister. Logan answered her question. The Duke has been informed of your visit, so he will be at the manor. But the other members are probably at the main house, since it's the social season. Heiress continued to wonder. So, they don't know I'm coming? Logan explained, No, not yet. Heiress still wanted to know more about them, so I'll only meet the Duke today then. Logan looked at Heiress. Are you sad? Heiser lowered her head and replied, "My feelings are a little mixed." Logan cut her off. "There's nothing for you to be sad about. Perhaps you shouldn't meet them. I think they will welcome you warmly." "Indeed." Heiser frowned. "How can you be so sure? Who knows? What if I can win them over with my cuteness?" Logan looked away. I think it's quite good if you stay this positive." The two of them looked at each other silently, captivated by Logan's easily misunderstood words. Heiser turned away in annoyance. "Don't be so discouraging. I'm sure the Duke will be very happy to see me, as long as I have powers like my mother." She gained more courage and determination. Heiser couldn't help but look out the window. We're almost there. Seeing something incredibly interesting made Heiser's eyes sparkle. "Wow, it's beautiful." So this is the Aparo Manor. Logan got out of the carriage first. He grabbed the door handle. Logan opened the door and looked inside. He gently reminded her while holding out his hand for her to take, "Watch your step." Heiser reached out and placed her hand on his. A sense of excitement washed over her. "Oh, it feels like I'm someone very important. Okay, let's do this," Heiser thought. "I shouldn't act like a country bumpkin who's never seen a big building before." As soon as she stepped out of the carriage, she immediately saw two maids and a butler welcoming her. "Welcome. We have been expecting you, my lady," Heiser thought to herself. "They're bowing to greet me. This is strange and a little embarrassing. I wonder if other nobles feel this way?" Logan was the first to speak. "Has the Duke returned?" The butler replied, "Yes, he is in his study. He instructed me to lead you both to the small drawing room when you arrived." Heiser caught the key point in that sentence. The small drawing room. Does that mean there's a large one too? Is this their way of saying, "I'm not worthy of using the large drawing room"? Heiser smiled gently. "May I use the bathroom then?" Everyone present stared at her with wide eyes. Heiser was startled. Was my request too much?" She smiled to hide her embarrassment. Did I ask for too much? Then don't worry about it. I don't want to trouble anyone." The butler bowed and replied, "No, of course you may use the bathroom, my lady. I will show you the way so you can get to the changing room." They quickly turned and walked into the manor. Heiser followed behind. However, her hand was grabbed tightly by Logan after just a few steps. Heiser turned her head and asked him, "What is it?" Logan moved closer to her and whispered in her ear, "Tell me if they are rude to you or if you feel they are discriminating against you." Heiser's eyes widened in surprise. "Are you worried about me?" Logan leaned close to her ear and said, "I told you that the people here would not be friend." "Oh, why to you?" Heiser squeezed his hand and shook it gently. "I know that, but do you really think I won't do anything if I'm discriminated against?" Logan remained silent. Then he suddenly spoke, his face looking very serious. "You cannot attack the servants no matter what happens, my lady." Heiser shouted, "I'm not a thug." Why is he looking at me like that? I can tell from his eyes that he doesn't agree with what I said. She was quickly led to a large, luxurious bathroom. Wow, these are all super high-end perfumes. One bottle must be worth 2 months' salary for a waitress. She put her hand in to test the water in the bathtub. Heiser thought to herself, "Logan made me think that everyone here would treat me badly, but the bathwater is very warm. Maybe they don't hate me that much." She started to take off her clothes. Heiser gently stepped into the bathtub. She was enjoying this comfort. Heiser felt it was very new. So this is what it feels like to be a noblewoman. It's amazing. I will definitely become a noble, no matter what happens. Suddenly, a voice was heard from outside. "Excuse me, my lady." The sudden appearance of the maid Dorothy made her scream in surprise. The maid Dorothy bowed. "Do you need any help?" Heiser was still startled. "Hey, I'm fine." The maid Dorothy said again. "Then I will wait in the next room. Please call me if you need anything." Heiser replied, "I will, thank you." After the girl left, Heiser observed the room a little. "Is there another door here? Where did she come from?" I should take a quick bath. I'm afraid someone else will barge in." Heiser peeked outside. Where are all my clothes?" Did the maid take them? She suddenly saw a pink dress on the shelf. "Oh, maybe she wants me to change into that dress. I wish she had told me first, though that probably wouldn't have helped." Heiser put on the dress, but then she started to feel down because the dress was too big. Her expression soured. "This dress is too big for me. I can't wear this." Even the dresses made of coarse fabric weren't. "This loose. It keeps slipping down when I can't hold it." She shouted for the maid in frustration. "Miss, I need your help. Miss." The maid Dorothy peeked inside. "Is everything all right, my lady?" Heiser spoke up. "This dress is too big for me. Where are all my clothes?" The maid Dorothy frowned with worry. "Oh, are they in the laundry room?" Heiser exclaimed in surprise. "What? Then can you bring them?" The maid Dorothy cut her off. "All the clothes you brought are being washed." "My lady," Heiser said angrily, "but you didn't even ask my opinion. Don't you have anything else smaller?" The maid Dorothy replied, "I'm afraid the only thing we have that would fit you is a servant's uniform. Should I bring it for you?" Heiser's eyes widened. "Wait. It feels like she's trying to pick a fight with me. This is the Aparo family manor. They must have something that fits me. She boldly asked the maid Dorothy, "Did the Duke order you not to lend me any clothes?" The maid Dorothy replied, "Of course not, my lady. It's just that we don't have any dresses left in the manor right now." Heiress didn't believe it. "What? How is that possible?" Dorothy replied, "Most of the dresses have been sent to the main house because it is currently the social season." Heiress fell silent and didn't argue anymore. She suddenly stood up straight. She asked the maid, "What is your name?" Dorothy didn't expect the lady to ask her that. My name is Dorothy, my lady." Heiress spoke, "All right, Dorothy." She was testing this maid a little. "This must be the first thing I have to go through to be accepted as a member of the Aparo house. These people won't accept seeing a commoner girl like me act like a noblewoman." Heiress smiled confidently. "I can't wear this, so bring me another dress. I can't let them win." Right at this moment in Logan's room, while he was sitting on the sofa reading a book, Heiress suddenly opened the door, walked in, and said, "Sorry to have kept you waiting." Hearing that, he looked up slightly and said, "It's all right." But unexpectedly, before he could finish his sentence, she startled him, making him break out in a sweat and stare at her in shock for a moment. It turned out the reason for his surprise was seeing her wearing a man's suit. Along with her rather dashing demeanor, it might have made him exclaim inwardly, "Whoa." Then he couldn't help but ask in confusion, "What kind of outfit is this? Why are you dressed like that?" She quickly crossed her arms and answered casually, "I don't know. You should ask the maids who took all my clothes to the laundry room." Hearing her say that, he frowned slightly and questioned, "So you have nothing to wear, my lady? Is that why you're wearing men's clothes?" She didn't answer him, but closed her eyes and casually flipped her hair. Seeing this, he turned around and suggested, "Wait here for a moment. I will send someone to the market to find new clothes for you." Hearing him say that, she quickly grabbed his hand and said, "Don't worry about it. Besides, the sun is about to set. It's too late for them to go shopping." He asked again with concern, but she calmly explained, "And there's no way the Duke will kick me out for wearing clothes like this." Hearing Heiress say that made Logan freeze for a moment. Then he apologized in a low voice. "I'm truly sorry. They work for the Aparo family, and I can't punish them." She smiled and continued, "I know. Don't worry about it. I'll handle this." He couldn't help but ask curiously, "How do you plan to handle this?" She replied, "I have to think about that, but right now, we have something more urgent. Hurry up. The Duke must be waiting for us." Hearing her say that, he suddenly let out a sigh. Then he suddenly raised his hand and gently adjusted her collar. She said nothing, but stared at him in surprise for a moment. He suddenly spoke, "I'm not sure that's a good idea. I'm worried about making him angry." She asked naively, "He won't be angry enough to want to kill me, right?" Despite his face immediately darkening after her question, she calmly raised her hand and touched her chest. Then she gave a faint smile and suggested, "That's enough stalling. Let's just hope I'm a talented mage like my mother." A moment later in the Duke's room, sitting with one leg crossed over the other, he clasped his hands and asked in a stern voice, "So you must be Lucy's daughter." Hearing that, Heiress broke into a cold sweat and stared at him in shock for a moment. Then she bowed and said, "It is an honor to meet you, Your Grace the Duke. My name is Heiress Root." He suddenly frowned and looked at her for a moment, then asked with some displeasure, "What are you wearing?" "I ordered the maids to bring you suitable attire." She answered frankly, "The dress they gave me was too big, Your Grace." Hearing that, he immediately questioned, "You are a grown woman. Have you no shame?" She quickly explained, "I had no other choice. They didn't have a single dress that fit me." He frowned in anger and continued to question loudly, "So the servants gave you men's clothes to wear, and you thought you should wear whatever they gave you. Is that it?" Heiress stared at him, stunned for a moment. Then she calmly pointed to herself and said, "I was the one who asked them to bring it to me, because I felt that men's clothes would at least be more fitting for my status than a servant's uniform." Then she couldn't help but think with some indignation, "I came here as your niece, not a servant, remember?" After hearing this, he immediately scolded loudly. "How ridiculous." Hearing this, Logan quickly apologized. "Please forgive me, Your Grace. I should have told the servants to prepare clothes for Lady Heiress in advance. Really, she's just like her mother." Hearing that, Heiress quickly frowned, her lips twitching as she thought, "Is he complimenting me?" Then she tried to suppress her anger and said with a forced smile, "Thank you, Your Grace. Many people have said the same." He didn't reply immediately, but suddenly clicked his tongue. Then he said sarcastically, "I would rather hope that you are as good a mage as your mother." Hearing that, she exclaimed at her thoughts, "You just hit the nail on the head." He suddenly let out a sigh. Then he suggested somewhat reluctantly, "Sit down." Hearing him say that, she couldn't help but sigh in relief, thinking, "Thank heavens, he didn't kick me out for Wearing this, as soon as she sat down, he reminded her in a low voice. I'm sure Viscount Charles has told you about your mother's wonderful abilities. She immediately replied. He told me, but I've never seen my mother use magic. He quickly continued. Your mother was the greatest mage I have known in the past century, and as you may already know, the Miavan Empire was founded on magic. Having strong magical power proves that you belong to the family line. She silently confirmed in her heart. I know that too. The royal family, who founded the Miavan Empire, are descendants of great mages, and the nobles are the descendants of mages. But as time went by, the number of mages born in each subsequent generation weakened as the bloodline thinned. Currently, powerful mages are very rare, even among members of the royal family. I once overheard a conversation between customers when I was still a waitress. People even said that the crown prince was not a member of the royal family because he had no magical power at all. He spoke seriously. If you can prove yourself to be a mage, I will be very pleased to accept you as a member of the Aparo family. Heiser calmly asked back, how do you want me to prove myself? Should I learn magic or show you what I have learned? Turning his head to the right, he answered in a low voice. There's a faster and easier way to start. Look, seeing a scroll in front of her with a line of strange purple characters, she spoke. He asked quickly, can you read that? She immediately asked back, are you going to send me back if I can't read it? He calmly explained, these letters are runes. It is the language for magic spells. The characters on the paper are a spell to create an illusion. It reads. Hearing that, Heiser couldn't help but think in surprise. Huh? Then she immediately repeated exactly what he had just read. Seeing both of them suddenly staring at her in shock made her a little confused, and she thought, why are they looking at me like that? Logan, sitting next to her, spoke up. She can repeat it exactly as you did, Your Grace. She frowned in annoyance and replied, of course I can repeat it. I'm not that stupid. He quickly explained, people without magical power cannot read runes. They will only hear noise. After hearing that, Heiser was astonished and immediately guessed, huh, so I have magical power, right? We should have done this sooner. Do you know how worried I was on the way here? He replied nonchalantly, even those with little magical power, those who cannot cast spells, are capable of reading runes. She asked blankly, huh? He replied, you are mistaken if you think that is enough to qualify as a member of the Aparo family. She broke into a sweat and asked seriously, then what do you want me to do, Your Grace the Duke? He continued in a stern voice, Miss Heiser Ruth, you will go and spend the night at the Shadow Mansion. She immediately continued, and he stated calmly, there is no, and hearing that, she couldn't help but ask in shock, what do you mean? Then she quickly thought confidently, what on earth? My job is just to go and sleep in some mansion? This is too easy. A moment later, at an old castle standing tall in the late afternoon light, creating a gloomy and mysterious image. Currently, Heiser and Logan are standing in front of the castle gate, both of them looking up at a flock of crows circling above, the surroundings gradually becoming quiet. Only the whistling of the wind and the cawing of the crows echoed, creating a mysterious scene. A moment later, Heiser suddenly remarked, this place looks haunted. Hearing that, Logan confirmed, it is, my lady. Hearing him say that, her face immediately turned pale, and she shouted in panic. Huh? Are you saying I have to spend the night in this haunted mansion? He answered casually, I told you, and to be more precise, they are dark spirits. She frowned doubtfully and asked again, huh? I don't remember you talking about this. He quickly reminded her, I told you that there are dark monsters living in that mansion. She retorted, stunned, that's not the same thing. Then she quickly rubbed her head and thought gloomily, I'd rather sleep in an abandoned house. Why do I have to spend the night in a haunted mansion? Are dark spirits related to having magical power? Life is so hard. A day earlier, Heiser suddenly asked, the Shadow Mansion, what does that mean? Logan didn't answer right away, but broke into a sweat and stared at her for a moment. Then he suddenly let out a sharp breath. Then he turned and walked into the room and said, come in, I'll make you some tea. She replied, okay, and couldn't help but think, he's both handsome and kind. While pouring tea into the cup, he calmly explained, in the old days, the Shadow Mansion was often used for coming-of-age ceremonies by noble families. It is located in the eastern canyon of Hebron. Hearing him say that, she quickly guessed, so I just need to spend the night at that mansion to pass the coming-of-age ceremony? He immediately confirmed, that's right, my lady. Hearing that, she couldn't help but stare and think. Noble families think so simply. He suddenly explained, it's not as easy as you think. She broke into a sweat and asked with an embarrassed smile, How do you know what I'm thinking? He answered calmly. It's written all over your face. The Shadow Mansion is owned by dark monsters. What does dark monsters mean? They are beings that belong to demons, and humans can use magic to use those dark monsters. Hearing this, Hyacer couldn't help but think in amazement. Oh, that sounds so complicated. Then she frowned slightly and asked doubtfully, but what does that have to do with the coming-of-age ceremony? Logan calmly explained, having strong magical power can prove that you have noble blood. Dark monsters have no choice but to obey powerful mages. Hearing him say that, she quickly gave an example. So, if I can spend the night at the Night Mansion, does that mean I'm a powerful mage? He immediately affirmed. Exactly, my lady. She frowned and asked seriously, what will happen if I'm not a powerful mage? He silently thought about this issue for a moment. Then he answered in a low voice. According to the records, some people were controlled by the dark monsters, and it led to their death, while others went mad or took their own lives. Hearing this, she couldn't help but be startled and asked in shock, what? Wait, does this still happen today? He immediately denied it. No, not anymore. Hearing that, she sighed in relief and thought, phew, thank heavens it's not that bad. He continued, nowadays there are fewer people with magical power, so people don't hold coming-of-age ceremonies at the Shadow Mansion anymore. Hearing him say that made her realize something immediately. So she quickly guessed. So, are you telling me that the Duke wants his own niece to spend the night in such a dangerous place? He calmly suggested, if you feel that you can't do it, you can leave the mansion whenever you want. She sighed helplessly and said, and I have to give up on becoming a noble. Suddenly remembering something, he spoke up. Now that I remember, I heard that Lady Lucia stayed at the Shadow Mansion for a week. Hearing that, she couldn't help but be stunned and shouted, out, huh? Then she exclaimed in her thoughts, a week? The Duke was probably being generous by letting me stay at the mansion for one evening. She suddenly laid her head on the table and whined. I'm so worried. I would be less worried if I knew how to cast a few spells. Rubbing his chin, he suggested, well, if you have enough talent, you might be able to learn 1 or 2 spells right away. She jumped up happily and asked with a smile. Again, really? He calmly explained. Every mage has a different type of magic that suits them. Sound magic is my specialty. For example, then he recited the spell aloud. She gaped curiously and thought, how does sound magic work? Huh, I can't speak. Logan snapped his fingers gently and said, that's how it works. Hearing that, Hyacer immediately tested her voice. Then she sighed in relief and said, I have my voice back. TSK, I thought magic spells would be big and flashy. How did you know what kind of magic you're good at? He closed his eyes and thought for a few seconds, then replied, by studying hard, I guess. She frowned disdainfully and uttered, TSK, that's not helpful at all. What kind of magic was my mother's specialty? He replied, I heard. Lady Lucia's strength was water and ice magic. She continued proudly, then maybe I'll be good at that kind of magic too. He immediately explained, your genes don't determine your specialty. It's related to a person's personality and temperament. Hearing that, she couldn't help but be surprised and thought, personality and temperament. That makes sense. Mother once told me that, regardless of its harmless appearance, water is strong enough to topple structures and penetrate steel. That potential really suits her. I wonder why Logan leans towards sound magic. Maybe because he complained a lot. After thinking, Hyacer boldly asked, what is the easiest water magic spell? He thought silently for a moment, then replied, it's not as good as Lady Lucia's water magic. At this point, he casually poured tea on the table and recited some spell, causing the spilled tea to suddenly freeze and stand tall on the table. Seeing that, she said excitedly, wow, teach me that spell. He calmly explained, all you need to do is feel the flow of magical power and arrange it in order. She asked with a bright smile, how do I do that? He smiled and replied, you just do it. Ahem, one has to try many times to get used to it. There is no specific way or method. It just comes to you naturally. Hearing that, Hyacer couldn't help but feel a little timid as she held out her hand and said, okay, I'll try. Then she recited the spell that Logan had just read. Seeing that it didn't move at all, she continued to recite the spell. Again, then with her eyes half closed, she said in a loud voice, I said, and shouted the spell, then read it again in a low voice. After trying to cast the spell for a while with no results, she slumped her face on the table and lamented, maybe I don't have any magical power at all. Learning a spell overnight must be an impossible goal. Logan remarked in a low voice, seeing your temperament, fire magic might suit you better, my lady. she asked dejectedly. And what kind of temperament is that? He thought silently for a moment, then pointed to the lamp stand in front of him while casting a spell and said, "It's the simplest fire spell. It creates a spark. Do you want to try?" She didn't reply, but immediately held out her hand and cast the spell. Seeing the lamp stand didn't change at all made her say in frustration, "I knew it wouldn't work." Suddenly feeling something boiling in her veins, she was extremely shocked and thought, what's happening? It feels like my blood is burning. What the hell is going on? Seeing that Heiress didn't seem well, Logan immediately jumped up and shouted, "Lady Heiress," then quickly reached out and pulled her into a hug, then couldn't help but ask worriedly, "Are you okay?" She stammered in reply, I'm fine." Seeing strange blue flames suddenly erupt from beneath her feet, she couldn't help but be startled and scream, "What is this?" Hughes then thought to herself, "The fire I enchanted is hard to put out. We can only extinguish the fire after all the furniture has been burned to a crisp, and now." Lozen summarized in a low voice, "It took us a while to put out the fire." Hughes narrowed her eyes and frowned, thinking to herself, "Lozen is thinking the same thing as me." Then she confidently affirmed, "That means I have a bit of magical power too." He immediately praised her. Right. It's good to be so optimistic." She smiled, waved her hand, and said, "Don't worry too much." He wasn't even listening. "Oh, and last night, I remembered a story my mother told me about the Shadow Mansion." Lozen couldn't help but ask curiously, "From Lady Lucia, did she give you any useful advice?" Hughes proudly nodded and replied, "She told me the only way to solve everything if you're at the Shadow Mansion." He asked eagerly, "Yes." While raising a clenched fist high, she answered in a loud voice, "I just need to punch everything in front of me. I used to carry dozens of beer mugs at once when I worked as a waitress, so my arms are very strong." "Is that so? I'm glad you're so optimistic." At this point, for some reason, he suddenly smirked, then gently draped a cloak over her and said, "In that case, I will pray for your safe return." She didn't reply immediately, but exclaimed inwardly, "It feels like I'm leaving for a battlefield." Then she nodded in thanks and said, "Thank you." Saying this, she turned around, and while waving goodbye to him, she said, "I'll be back soon." Late that afternoon, at the Shadow Mansion, Hughes gently opened the door, entered, and politely said, "Hello. At least it looks like a normal mansion." As she cautiously took one step at a time up the stairs, she thought to herself, "It's so dark I should walk carefully." Suddenly seeing something, she couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, I wonder if this is the owner of this mansion?" Just as she turned around and thought with a slight chill, "Well, I know it's just a portrait, but it gives me the creeps." The eyes of the man in the painting suddenly followed her every move. As she walked forward, she thought a little hastily, "I should go to bed early. It's almost dawn. Where's the bedroom?" Thinking this, Hughes hurriedly took a few steps forward, then looked outside and mumbled, "It's pitch black outside. That's Lozen's carriage. Why is he still here? Hasn't he left? Is it because he's worried about me? Probably not. I'm sure he's just there to make sure I spend the night at the mansion. I guess I have trust issues." Suddenly, someone asked, "Is something funny?" Which made her jump and stare in horror for a moment. Then she quickly raised the lamp in her hand and shouted, "Who's there? What was that?" Suddenly, a wolf-like shadow leaned close to her ear and asked slyly, "You don't know magic, do you?" She didn't answer but stared wide-eyed in shock for a moment. Then she immediately turned around and shouted, "Who's there? Stop teasing me and show yourself." Just then a hand suddenly grabbed her arm and suggested with amusement, "Let's eat her arm," which made her jump and scream, "Ah!" Right after that, another hand grabbed her hair and suggested excitedly, "I want to swallow her head," making her jump again and continue to scream, "Ah!" Then she thought in utter shock, "What is happening?" Suddenly seeing something, Hughes shouted, "Oh, what is that? Is that a weasel?" Saying that, Hughes scrambled after the shadow from before and thought to herself, "I should try to catch it and talk to it or something." Just as she finished thinking, the mysterious hands from before grabbed her arm, then pulled her down the stairs, making her scream in pain. Ouch! Then she couldn't help but think in frustration, "This is the worst day of my life. I can't see anything because the oil lamp broke, and my hand is bleeding." Seeing this, the shadows laughed cheerfully and said, "Ahaha, what an idiot. It was a piece of cake. This is really fun." Hearing this, she thought in extreme anger, They think this is funny. I'm so mad. So mad I feel like I'm about to cry. I just want to be a member of the Apiro family and live like a noble. But there are too many obstacles. My grandfather, who was supposed to look after me, sent me to a haunted mansion to spend the night. And the servants look down on me because I'm just a commoner. And now, even the ghosts are toying with me. I find Viscount Charles somehow pleasant, but he can be stubborn at times. The Duke always wants to see you in person, but I always refuse the invitation. I'm not even sure if he's on my side or not. Does everyone think I'm a pushover or something? Why do they make me prove myself? But what is there to prove? My mother was a member of the House of Apiro, and I'm her daughter. Just as Hughes finished thinking, a hairy arm with sharp claws suddenly reached out and crept towards her leg. Just as it thought it was about to successfully grab her leg, she suddenly snatched its hand, then decisively threw it away with all her strength, making it panic and scream in pain, questioning, "Oh, what is she doing? She's crazy, Run." She slowly raised her hand and asked playfully, "Oh, so now you want to run away from me?" Then she immediately shouted an incantation. As soon as she finished chanting, a blue orb of light instantly appeared in the palm of her hand. Then the orb split into two beams of light that shot forward. Seeing this, she slowly withdrew her hand and muttered in annoyance, "I thought we would talk to resolve this, but it seems that's no longer an option anymore." Then she quickly clenched her fist and thought with a sly smile, "Which means now I have to use force, and this is just the beginning." At the same time, outside the Shadow Mansion, Lozen was now standing next to the carriage and let out a worried sigh. Then he thought the townspeople and the nobles, who all know a little about magic, didn't dare to go near the Shadow Mansion. I don't know if it was a good idea for Lady Hughes to spend the night here, while she's just started learning about magic. I have a feeling I'm doing something wrong. Suddenly seeing a strange blue light flash in front of him, he was extremely surprised and quickly exclaimed, "Huh? What was that?" Suddenly, there was a flash of light. He saw the entire mansion was now illuminated by that blue light, which made him so shocked he mumbled, "That is, it can't be, what's happening?" Then he broke into a cold sweat and thought worriedly, what on earth is going on inside the mansion? Anyway, a moment later, in a corner of the Shadow Mansion, three half-human, half-beast creatures were huddled together, whispering to each other. While biting its nails, the Black Panther said with a dark, confused face, "I don't get it. I thought she couldn't use magic. I'm getting scared." Hearing that, the lion and the wolf broke into a sweat and affirmed in unison, "She's probably not that stupid. She's crazy." Just then, Hughes approached the area where they were sitting and warned in a loud voice, "Hey, where are you? Things will get worse if you don't show yourselves now." Hearing that, the Black Panther's face turned pale and it asked in a panic, "What should we do now? Should we beg for forgiveness?" The lion, with a pale face, replied, "She'll probably leave at dawn. Let's just wait and see." The Black Panther fearfully hypothesized, "But what if she doesn't want to leave? Lucy once stayed at the mansion for over a week." Hearing that, the wolf said with some suspicion, "Now that you mention it, why does she look so much like Lucy?" Hearing it say that, the Black Panther and the lion immediately turned to look at each other doubtfully. The wolf couldn't help but ask suspiciously, "Lucy had blonde hair too, right?" The Black Panther sweated and retorted in a low voice, "But many humans have blonde hair." Just as he finished speaking, Hughes found them. Seeing them, she said with a delighted laugh, "Found you," which made them jump in fright and scream in unison, "Ah!" A moment later, sitting comfortably on a chair, Hughes rested her chin on her hand and complained in annoyance, "I couldn't sleep and had to run around the mansion because of you three. Panther, why is the fanning so weak? Fan faster." Hearing that, he immediately fanned faster and apologized in a small voice, "I'm sorry." She suddenly rubbed her head, sighed, and thought to herself, "I can't believe this is what I was worried about. There was no reason for me to be so stressed." Finding them a bit strange, she immediately asked, "Anyway, what's with your forms? Can't you two turn into humans? And why are you two shirtless?" The lion answered with his eyes shut in misery, "Demons can transform, but we don't have that ability like them." She asked loudly, "You're demons too? Can't you heal my hand with healing magic?" The Black Panther quickly explained, "Healing magic belongs to the Holy Magic Group. How can we use it?" Hearing that, Hughes sighed in frustration and criticized, "You guys are useless." The lion, on the verge of tears, apologized pitifully. Ugh, I'm sorry. She quickly crossed her arms and asked with a curious frown, I heard you threaten and torture people with no magical power, so I was expecting something scarier. What can you guys even do? After a moment of silence, the wolf could no longer contain its indignation and immediately shouted a warning. That's enough. Human, I don't want to hear anything from a pathetic mage who can't even cast spells properly or control her magic like you. Hearing that, Hughes became furious, glared at it, and asked in a low voice, What did you just say? Seeing this, it immediately tucked its tail and bowed its head in fear, staying silent. Seeing that it no longer dared to be insolent with her, she spoke up authoritatively. Watch your words. I can burn your body. It's just that I can't completely control my magic yet. The lion obediently offered, Then let me help you learn magic. Hearing that, the wolf hurriedly raised its hand to ask for her permission. Then it confidently made a proposal. With my help, even a fool can easily cast spells within 4 months. I also use fire-type magic, so I can help you a lot. Hearing it say that, she couldn't help but ask with some doubt, Really? But you can't turn into a human. You'll scare people if you go out like this. It asked back, startled, Go out? Why would I do that? She explained bluntly, You said I could master magic with your help in 4 months. That means you'll be coming with me. It asked with some hesitation, You're not going to make me live in a gloomy and dull place like this for 4 months, are you? The Black Panther cleared its throat and explained in a low voice, Ahem, we cannot leave the mansion without a contract. She asked again in surprise, A contract? He continued to explain in a low voice, It's a pact between a mage and a beast. Mages share their magical power with us, and we will be loyal to them and see them as our familiar. Resting her chin on her hand, Hughes couldn't help but ask worriedly, I don't have to sell my soul or something, right? The Black Panther smiled friendly and affirmed, Oh, of course not. That's what demons do. Hearing him say that, she said with some curiosity, That sounds like a good deal. I wonder why my mother didn't have a contract with you. The Black Panther suddenly asked, startled, Huh? If you don't mind me asking, what is your mother's name? She answered calmly, Her name is Lucia Ruth. No, I mean Lucia Pyro. As soon as they heard her confirmation, they immediately started chattering amongst themselves. Lady Lucia is your mother? I knew it. So you're related to that crazy woman. She broke into a sweat and asked blankly, Wait, what do you mean? What did my mother do? The Black Panther frowned and recounted grimly. We were just going to tease her a little, but she made us hop like rabbits from one end of the hallway to the other for a whole week, while covering its face with its hands. The lion exclaimed in fear that was terrifying. The wolf next to it was sobbing and immediately wiped away its tears. She couldn't help but ask curiously, So did you refuse her offer? We did, and Lucy said she wasn't sure she could take care of us as pets. Hearing that, Hughes was surprised and thought to herself, Huh, they seem a bit too big to be pets. Mother really had unique taste. Then she quickly crossed her arms, bowed her head, and said with concern, But I don't think I can take you with me like this. The wolf immediately made a suggestion. I can't turn into a human, but I can turn into something else. She couldn't help but ask curiously, Something else? What is it? It replied with a faint smile. Then it suddenly transformed, making her jump, cover her face with her hands, and shout, Whoa. Then she peeked through her fingers and asked what happened. Just as she finished asking, the white smoke gradually dissipated, revealing an incredibly cute wolf pup. It closed its eyes slightly and said with a confident smile, Like this, in this form, no one will know that I'm actually a wolf. Just as it finished speaking, she suddenly screamed, Oh my God, you're so cute. It asked back, stunned, What are you doing? She ignored what it just said and said with a doting smile, Oh, hello there, little puppy. Hearing that, it shouted angrily, Did you just call me a puppy? How rude. She continued excitedly, I have no problem raising this cute little puppy as my familiar. It declared authoritatively, I am a wolf, a mighty wolf. She suggested cheerfully, You'll come home with me. A moment later, outside the Shadow Mansion, staring at the wolf pup Hughes was holding in her arms, Lozen couldn't help but ask, What is this? She replied with an excited smile, It's a puppy. He asked curiously, What are you going to do with a puppy? She replied happily, I'm going to keep it as a pet. Hearing that, he said with some hesitation, This is rather sudden. She recounted cheerfully, We've made a deal. He asked again in surprise, You made a deal with a puppy? It suddenly shouted angrily, Stop calling me a puppy, you ignorant people. How many times do I have to tell you I'm a mighty wolf? Holding the wolf pup up high, she said with a beaming smile, All right, I know. He's my familiar. He's also going to teach me magic. He was silent for a moment in thought, then continued. I've read in books that some mages make pacts with beasts and treat them as familiars. I think we should keep this a secret for now. While pinching the wolf's cheek, she asked curiously, "Why is that? Don't you think he would be pleased if he knew I tamed a beast? Or something?" He gently explained the reason. "You've already completed your task, so I don't think we need to tell the Duke about this familiar of yours." She didn't reply but stared at him with wide eyes and thought to herself, "Well, I don't want to draw attention to myself for this, but I wonder why Lozen is against it. Though," then she hesitated and asked speculatively, "Is it that you don't want me to be favored by him, right?" Then she couldn't help but think suspiciously. Does Lozen not like me having power, or is it because I'm a commoner? Is he worried that I'll take over the Apiro family if I become too powerful? He suddenly denied it. "No, I don't think so. Give me the puppy. I'll hold on to it until we know it's harmless." She lowered her head, disappointed, and thought to herself, "Of course, I don't know what I was expecting from him anymore." After thinking, Hughes asked in a serious tone, "By the way, I noticed you didn't go back to town?" He replied, "No, I've been here the whole time, my lady." She asked with a sneer, "Why is that? Did he order you to watch over me?" "I'll keep the puppy. I think it'll be safer if I keep it with me, and I don't think I'll be in any danger either." Then, as she stepped into the carriage, she couldn't help but think in frustration. "I know he works for the Duke, but does he have to insult me like that, as if watching over me wasn't enough? This makes me so angry." That evening, at the Duke's mansion, right then in his office, as soon as he saw her enter, he immediately spoke. "You're back? I didn't expect you to pass, so I'm very impressed. Sit down." Seeing him so calm made Hughes think angrily to herself. "He's really trying to provoke me." Then she said with a faint smile, "It seems Viscount Charles has updated you on my situation." He replied coolly, "Viscount Charles? I haven't spoken to him." She feigned surprise and asked back, "Oh, then how'd you know I passed?" He answered indifferently, "I had someone else follow you. After all, you could have just lied about spending the night at the mansion." She gasped in amazement. "Oh." Then she frowned slightly and thought to herself, then why did Lozen stay the whole time? Isn't that going above and beyond out of loyalty to the Duke? I don't understand why he would work so hard." After thinking, she crossed her arms and said with great pity, "In that case, I feel sorry for the Viscount. You should have told him that you had sent someone else to watch me. Then he wouldn't have had to stay up all night in front of the mansion to watch over me." The Duke asked, slightly surprised. "Charles knew about that, didn't he tell you?" Hearing him ask that made her stare at him with wide eyes for a moment. Then she couldn't help but wonder to herself, "What? Then why did Lozen wait all night in front of the mansion? Could it be because he was really worried about me? I had no idea. I got angry with him and even said such sarcastic things. I'm so terrible. Why didn't he say anything?" The Duke suddenly said with a faint, praising smile, "Anyway, I'm very proud of you for passing this time." She replied in a low, dejected voice. "Thank you." He continued to praise her. "You have qualified to become a member of the Apiro family. Now, you must train your magic." Hearing him say this made her heart ache as she thought, "I'm his granddaughter, but he treats me like I'm a useful object." After thinking, she asked in a cold voice, "So I'm officially a member of the Apiro family now?" He replied coolly, "Of course. I have also prepared a room for you. I will have you added to the family register and report to the king later. I will introduce you to the other family members once they return from the capital. You will have a lot to learn. You must do your best in your lessons so you no longer behave like a commoner." She frowned slightly and asked back, "Like a commoner?" He calmly explained, "I'm talking about the way you dress, speak, and even walk. Besides having magical power, you must learn all these things to prove that you are a person of the Apiro family." At this point, he suddenly stood up. Then he walked over and placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "I hope you will enjoy becoming a noble. You are now officially a member of the Apiro family." She didn't reply, but silently clenched her fists and thought, "That's right. I really wanted to become a noble, but it doesn't feel real. All I needed was the Duke's recognition. But I had to prove myself with my own magical power. Even though I'm his own granddaughter, it all seems pointless." After thinking, Hughes asked, "Do I get any reward? I think I did well this time." Hearing that, the Duke exclaimed in admiration, "Oh," she stated her thoughts frankly. "So I have two requests, sir." He asked with a faint smile. "Not one, but two requests." "Well, let's hear them." She immediately made her proposal. "First of all, I want the Shadow Mansion to be mine." Then she considered it to herself. "If I ask for ownership of a property belonging to the Apiro family, it could create conflict within the family. But since the Shadow Mansion is an abandoned building that no one wants, the other Apiros won't care much. And owning the Shadow Mansion will let everyone know that I have strong magical power. This will be beneficial for both the Apiro family and myself, because the only weapon I possess is my magic. I'm sure the Duke already knows this, he said with some concern. The Shadow Mansion, but it belongs to the royal family. She replied with a calm smile. I heard people no longer hold coming-of-age ceremonies at the Shadow Mansion. It must be a thorn in the royal family's side. I'm sure they'll sell it for a cheap price if we offer to buy it. Hearing her say that, he crossed his arms and said, I will consider it. What about the other request? She didn't answer right away, but thought with a calm smile. There's something I've wanted to do ever since I set foot in the Apiro Mansion. The servants here hid my clothes and told me to wear a servant's uniform. Then she suggested with a smile, I want all the servants in the mansion to gather. There's something I want to tell them. Then she thought confidently, I'll show them who the real master is. A moment later, seeing that the servants seemed to have gathered fully, Hughes asked, Is everyone here? The black-haired male servant bowed respectfully and replied, Yes, my lady, except for those who were sent to the capital. Hearing him say that, she thought with some indifference, Well, that's probably fine. Then she said in a loud voice, I'm sure you all know who I am. On my first day at the mansion, I was put in an awkward position because you washed all of my clothes. I'll give you points for your pathetic attempt to sabotage me. You tried to make me wear a servant's uniform in front of the Duke. Huh? The orange-haired female servant explained fearfully. It was just a misunderstanding. Hearing that, she immediately glared at Dorothy and reminded her in a loud voice. I don't recall giving you permission to speak. There was no reason to take my bag without asking me first. Was there? Hearing her say this, Dorothy's face immediately turned pale, and she cried out in a panic, begging, Please, please spare me. It won't happen again. She quickly crossed her arms and asked coldly, Are you really sorry? She affirmed, trembling with fear. Yes, my lady, I don't know what I was thinking then. Please forgive me. Hearing her say that, Hughes smirked. Then she offered with some leniency. All right, Dorothy, I'll give you a chance to be forgiven. Then she calmly considered to herself, Dorothy isn't innocent because she also participated in this. But I don't think it was just her. First, she's just a maid. She doesn't have the power to come up with such a conspiratorial plan. The only person who could have come up with this idea is Henrietta, the head maid. I'm sure she's the one who ordered this. After thinking, Hughes said in a loud voice, I will give all of you another chance. I want the person who took my bag, the servants who washed my clothes, and those who decided to stay silent despite knowing about this ridiculous incident. Come to me and apologize before midnight tonight. If you do, I will overlook what you have done. After hearing her words, the group of servants immediately turned to whisper among themselves. Seeing this, she quickly opened a handful of gold coins and said, And in addition, if you tell me who is involved in this, I will reward you with 10 kinnis. Then she thought with some satisfaction, 10 kinnis isn't a lot, but it's a large sum of money. It's enough to drink at the tavern all day and buy everyone around. But this probably won't make them talk because their bonds are worth more than 10 kinnis. After thinking to herself, she continued in a loud voice, Now, this is the most important part. If someone comes to tell on you before you come to see me and apologize, I will deduct 20 kinnis from your salary. I will also deduct 50 kinnis from the wages of those found guilty after midnight. Seeing them turn to whisper among themselves again, she couldn't help but think with amusement. I can see they're busy thinking about what to do. 50 kinnis is probably worth half of the lowest-ranking servant's salary. But that's not all, girls. While running a hand across her neck, she declared with a smirk, And if you are the last one to be caught, you will be fired. That is all. I expect you to choose wisely. Oh, by the way, she suddenly fell silent for a moment, then thought with satisfaction, What I'm about to say will be a nightmare for those who discriminate against others because of their rank. Then she casually added, The Duke has given me permission to do this, so I hope you don't do anything foolish. A while later, I told Logan about what had just happened, and waited for the servants to come and see me in my private drawing room. Dorothy was the first to arrive. She begged for forgiveness and left. I forgave her as I had promised, but after Dorothy left, no one came to see me for 2 hours. Logan asked with some doubt, You think they will beg for your forgiveness that easily? Servants who work for prestigious nobles are also extremely complacent. They're very arrogant and act as if they also belong to the noble class. She calmly replied, I know that. Just wait and see. I'm sure they need time to think about what to do. Then she thought to herself, They're probably waiting for others to act first. I just need one more person to come and see me, and then everything will go smoothly. The servants will worry about someone snitching on them. As more and more people come to me. Just as she finished her thought, a knock suddenly sounded from outside the door. It made her think with a triumphant smirk, let's begin. Then she called out in response, come in. Logan, sitting to one side, couldn't help but think in admiration. Surprisingly, Lady Huser's plan succeeded. Oh, 2 more servants have come to see her, and when the others find out about it, they came to Huser's room and confessed. I was the one who brought your bag, my lady. But I had no idea it would be used like that. I was the one who prepared the servants' clothes. I sincerely apologize, my lady. Mrs. Henrietta told me we didn't have any dresses left, so I believed her. They unintentionally exposed others without even knowing. After a while of dealing with the servants, she was out of breath and lamented, ugh, I wish they had come to see me sooner. Dealing with all of them at once is so tiring. Come in. Hearing her, this person also quickly opened the door and entered, then bowed an apology, saying it is all my fault. Please punish me if you wish, but please forgive the others, my law. Dysprosium. While gently stroking her pet's head, she said with a hint of sarcasm, how interesting, Mrs. Henrietta. You are the one behind this, yet you act as if you were sacrificing yourself to protect the other servants. She hastily admitted her fault. I know what I did was wrong. She continued in a loud voice. Someone has told me that you were also involved in this matter, so I will deduct 20 kinnis from your salary this month. Do you have any objections? Hearing this, she was stunned and asked back, is that all, my lady? She replied indifferently, I told you that's all there is to it. She quickly bowed her head again, then loudly blamed herself. But I am the main culprit. Will you really forgive me if I had come to ask for forgiveness earlier? She replied indifferently, of course, that is what I promised. And although you have confessed, I will still deduct 50 kinnis from the salaries of the culprits who were revealed after midnight. Watching her back as she gradually disappeared, Huser thought pensively. She probably feared the worst, but after seeing that it didn't happen, she just left quietly. Not long after, all the other servants came. Henrietta had clearly told them to do so. While she was lost in thought about the servants, Logan, sitting beside her, stared at her and thought in astonishment. I thought she would use harsh measures. But she has a legitimate reason. She was so calm that she made Henrietta let her guard down. I didn't expect this from her. A while later, in Duke Duck's room, he asked in a somewhat loud voice, I heard that girl cause trouble again? He startled and stammered in reply, The Duke bowed his head slightly and continued in a loud voice. It hasn't even been a day since she became a member of the Apejo family. He immediately spoke up to soothe him. It's not a big deal, sir. Hearing him say that, the Duke said with a hint of criticism, it's big enough if Graham had to tell me about it. He seemed to find it amusing, didn't he? He glanced away and speculated to himself. Was it the butler? The Duke asked in a stern voice. So, what do you plan to do with Henrietta? He immediately answered, Lady Huser decided to deduct 20 kinnis from her salary, sir. Picking up a document, the Duke gave his serious assessment. I feel the girl is still too soft. However, she also made a wise decision. This way, she will avoid making Karina her enemy. Hearing him say that, he smiled faintly in relief and thought to himself, I don't know if Lady Huser is aware of what could happen between her and the Duchess of Pajo, but I think she made the right choice. Henrietta serves the Duchess of Pajo. If Lady Huser fired Henrietta, she would immediately be on the Duchess's radar. Looking at him, the Duke continued his assessment. Anyway, I want you to teach the girl. It's hard to find a decent teacher like you. He asked in surprise. You want me to be your teacher, sir? The Duke asked bluntly. You and Huser seem to be quite close lately. He stammered in alarm. That's not it, sir. The Duke closed his eyes slightly and affirmed in a stern voice, I suppose it doesn't matter since I know you wouldn't dare take advantage of her. Give this to Graham on your way out. This is a letter from the Emperor. Logan quickly took the letter and couldn't help but ask with some suspicion. It's related to Lady Huser, isn't it, sir? The Duke suddenly stood up and immediately confirmed. Yes, that's right. I'm making a request so that I can add her to the family register. I'm glad Lucy's daughter is just like her mother. She would probably be useless if she were just like her foolish father. Hearing him say that, Logan could only stand frozen in place, pensively mulling over what the Duke had just told him. Then, as he started walking forward, he thought to himself, I think the Duke's words might upset Lady Huser. No, probably not. She'd probably destroy everything in front of her. Should I say a few words to defend Lady Huser's father on her behalf? Suddenly realizing something was a bit off, he quickly stopped. Then he broke into a sweat and thought, I don't understand why I'm concerning myself with these things. She's emotional, quick-tempered, talkative, and unlike other noble ladies, she can even be violent at times. I don't find her attractive in any way. After thinking this, Logan quickly opened the door and entered his room. And unbelievably, the sight that greeted him was, she was lifting her skirt, looking at her leg, and muttering, I wonder why my leg is so damp, which made him speechless, thinking with a slight smile, also, she's not exactly the elegant or refined noble lady I thought she would be. However, she is cheerful, lively, and very open. Those traits suit her best. As soon as she realized Logan was in her room, Huser asked in surprise, Are you done with your work for today? He replied calmly, Yes, my lady. Is there something you came here for? She suddenly blushed with embarrassment and explained with a smile, I owe you an apology. Hearing that, he couldn't help but ask in astonishment. Me? She confirmed awkwardly, Yes, ahem. I accused you of following me, and I said you were a pathetic mage. I was so rude. I know you stayed up all night in front of the mansion because you were worried about me. He broke into a sweat and suggested in a low voice, You don't have to apologize, my lady. She frowned in confusion and asked, Why not? You must have been upset by what I said. I'm truly sorry. He calmly proposed a hypothetical. If the Duke had ordered me to watch over you, I would have done it without any objection. She quickly raised her hand and replied sternly, But that's not what happened, and that's what's important. Then she suddenly smiled brightly, her eyes crinkling, and expressed her sincere feelings. Thank you for watching over me. Oh, he calmly continued, I was just following the Duke's orders. If he had told me to turn my back on you, I would have done so without hesitation. You don't need to thank me. She gave a faint smile and asserted, But the fact that you stayed means you yourself are trying to help me, instead of just following orders, right? Hearing her words, he couldn't help but think in shock. She trusts people too easily. She doesn't belong in this world of nobility. But despite my advice, she still became a member of the Apejo family. So someone has to help her so she can survive in this world of nobles. Just then, he suddenly made a suggestion, Mr. Charles. I have something I want to give you to show you how sorry I am. Would you like to come with me? He asked, stunned, but it's past midnight. Hearing him say that, she immediately stopped walking. Then she slowly turned around and continued with a faint smile. All the better. In the dining room, Logan asked in amazement, Did you make this yourself, my lady? Hiyu smiled proudly and replied, Of course I made it. She thought happily, This is an apple pie baked with my special recipe. It has freshly picked apples and a lot of honey in it. This is my specialty, you know. After thinking for a long time about what to do to show my remorse to Logan, I decided to bake an apple pie. The dessert I'm particularly good at making. After the head chef tasted the first pie, he begged me to teach him the recipe. Looking at Logan eating the pie in front of her, she continued to think with a smile, I used to watch my super handsome father make it and learned it from him. I'm sure Logan will like it. But her thoughts were interrupted by Logan's cold voice, saying, You shouldn't cook anymore, my lady. Heiser clenched her fists in annoyance and asked back why not, as if gathering all his courage. Logan looked her straight in the face and said loudly, A noble lady never cooks for anyone, especially not for me. Let the servants do it for you next time, otherwise the kitchen staff will look down on you. Heiser suddenly realized and thought, so that's it. Then she analyzed cheerfully, Don't worry about that. When I gave him a piece of the pie, it was as if they were ready to worship me. Logan glanced at her in disbelief and replied, I think you're exaggerating a bit, my lady. Heiser said decisively, No. Logan suddenly stood up and looked at her, lecturing, Anyway, you may be a member of the Apejo family now, but when you go out, you are a commoner. You should remember that, my lady. People will use that against you. That's why you should be careful with your every action. Heiser pointed her finger at his face in annoyance and shouted, Yeah, stop nagging me. Seeing Logan actually go quiet, she thought that's better. After a moment, he asked while eating, Did you make this apple pie because you wanted to apologize? Heiser replied in surprise, You noticed? I thought I was being so clever. Logan said calmly, Too clever for my own good. Don't do it again. Suddenly, he tasted cinnamon in the pie he was eating. Logan said with some surprise, I can taste cinnamon. Heiser clapped her hands in appreciation and replied, That's right, I put a little cinnamon in it. Then, while drinking his tea, Logan continued. I can also taste apple, but there's a hint of something else in here too. Heiser quickly explained. I added dates to it. Logan said with great interest, I've never tried tea like this before. Hearing that, Heiser quickly started complaining wearily. Really? I woke up very early this morning to dry the apples and steam the dates. Gosh, it was really hard work. Logan looked at her in disbelief and asked, You did all that just for a cup of tea? Heiser looked at him sincerely and said, I wanted you to know how much I wanted to apologize to you. Logan blushed slightly in embarrassment and replied, You don't need to feel sorry, my lady. I was just following orders from the Duke. Looking at him, Heiser smiled happily and thought to herself, I used to hate it when he said that, but come to think of it, Logan could have easily controlled me by gaining my trust rather than being honest with me. However, Logan didn't do that. That's why I feel like I can trust him. A moment later, Logan turned to her again to remind her, You can't address the maids so respectfully, my lady. And when it comes to cooking in the kitchen. Pausing for a moment, he continued, Please let me know when you want to cook again. Heiser smiled and thought, I guess he liked the pie. Logan continued, You can ask me anything you don't know or are struggling with. I will do my best to help you adjust to life in the Apejo manner, my lady. Heiser suddenly cut in and asked, Is that what he told you to do? Hearing that, Logan suddenly fell silent, not knowing how to answer. Seeing this, Heiser gently called out, Logan, you're on my side, right? Although she was smiling brightly on the outside, as if nothing was wrong, she was extremely anxious, clutching her skirt under the table. She thought to herself, he probably won't say what I want to hear. He'll say something like, I only take orders from the Duke. Suddenly, Logan spoke. As long as it's not against the Duke's orders, I will always be on your side. Noticing the insecurity in Heiser's eyes, he quickly comforted her and squeezed her hand that was resting under the table. Hearing that, she smiled brightly at him. Heiser said cheerfully, Are we good now? We're friends now, aren't we? Looking at her like that, Logan suddenly laughed out loud. Then he said, By the way, I haven't thanked you yet, my lady. Thank you. This is the most wonderful apple pie I have ever tasted. Scene change. Night falls in Logan's bedroom. He slowly steps out of the bathroom, carefully covering his wet hair with a towel after showering. Suddenly, he thought, Lady Heiser's apology had no ulterior motives at all. When I was enjoying the apple pie she made, it felt like she and I were friends with no distance between us at all. I want to be on her side so that she can remain forever innocent, pure, confident, and kind like this, despite all the hardships she will face in this cruel world, even when I myself have already fallen to it. The next morning, in Heiser's bedroom, the maids were trying their best to wake her up. Lady Heiser, it's time to wake up. My lady. Heiser negotiated irritably. Just 5 more minutes, Dorothy. Dorothy refused and continued assertively. Mr. Strauss is waiting for you in study. He told me to wake you up and help you get ready. Hearing this, Heiser thought to herself, is Logan still nagging? Seeing that she was awake, Dorothy said happily, I'll bring water for you to wash your face. Do you need me to help you change, my lady? Heiser replied wearily, It's all right. I can do it myself. She thought to herself, I don't think I can ask her for help with bathing and dressing. After getting ready, Heiser went to the study. She studied while thinking miserably a while later. I've learned about etiquette, culture, and the common knowledge that a noble needs, including magic. After finishing her studies, she stepped outside, yawning as she said, Good morning, Logan. She suddenly realized that since becoming a member of the Apejo family, she had been calling Logan by his last name. Hearing her call, he quickly turned to look and replied, Good morning, my lady. Seeing him so full of energy, she thought with some annoyance, that handsome face doesn't look sleepy at all, does it? The two quickly sat down to talk. Heiser asked with a smile, Did you get enough sleep, Logan? He quickly replied, I did, my lady. Heiser became even more curious. How many hours a day do you sleep? Logan replied calmly, About 4 hours. Hearing that, she was extremely surprised and said, What? That's not good for your health. Seeing her so worried, Logan said flatly, I'll be able to sleep more after you become a perfect, noble lady. Heiser thought irritably to herself, he's blaming me for his own lack of sleep, although he's right. Seeing her silence, Logan didn't continue the conversation. He placed a tall stack of books on the table and said, Anyway. He looked at her and continued, Let's begin. Please sit up straight. Heiser sighed to herself, I don't want to do this at all. At this moment, her pet beside her spoke up, Master, you have a lot of potential, but you don't want to learn. Heiser touched her nose awkwardly and said, Cha, I only need magic because I want to become a noble. I never intended to learn Hearing that, the puppy continued, don't you have any ambition? I thought humans were ambitious creatures. Heiser wondered, ambition? Like what? The puppy looked at her seriously and replied, for example, ruling the world. Hearing that, Heiser burst out laughing and said, I don't think I could do that, even if I became a great mage. The puppy didn't think so and said seriously, with your abundant amount of magic, you could build a city and destroy it in a single day. After this sentence, the atmosphere became unusually silent. Breaking the silence, Heiser asked, what do you think, Logan? He asked, puzzled about what, my lady? Heiser said flatly, I might want to destroy the Empire. Pausing for a bit, she continued, if I get angry about something after becoming a great mage? Although she said that, in her heart she was thinking, did you hear that? That's my power. You'd better be nice to me before I start planning to destroy this world, and stop nagging me so much. Hearing her, Logan smiled lightly and replied, even if you have a lot of potential, it will be meaningless if you don't learn any magic. Heiser said angrily, are you making fun of me? Looking at her, he just continued flatly, besides, you have no interest in learning, my lady. Heiser became even angrier and said louder, I can achieve anything if I really care about it. Don't you believe me? Avoiding her gaze, he replied nonchalantly, ah, of course I believe you. His attitude made her even angrier, and she shouted, come here, puppy, let's study together. I can become a great mage. It's no big deal. Heiser resolved to herself, just you wait. I'll study hard and become a great mage, so Logan can't laugh at me anymore. After trying to practice for a while, Heiser let out a tired breath. The puppy beside her quickly asked, is there something you don't understand, master? She helplessly dropped her face onto the table and replied, I don't understand what it means to stabilize the flow of magic. The puppy said helplessly, I've told you many times that you have to use the ancient language to connect with the world. Heiser replied irritably, I don't know how to connect with the world. It's not a living creature. Hearing that, the puppy got even angrier and said loudly, Master, you have to feel the flow of magic in your body. Trust it and accept it. Heiser slammed her hand on the table, shot up, and yelled, like I said, I don't know how to do it, and don't you raise your voice at me. I'm your master. At this moment, Logan held out his hand to stop her, saying, calm down, my lady. Hugging the puppy tightly in his arms, he continued calmly, it's still just a puppy. Seeing him like that, Heiser got even angrier and questioned, since when did you two become best friends? Avoiding her question, Logan quickly returned to the previous topic. Why don't you try to remember, my lady? We've experimented with magic together before. Heiser sighed and replied, but the result was terrible. Recalling that image, she continued helplessly, and I was so scared because I couldn't control the fire. Seeing her like that, the puppy quickly comforted her, but Master did very well that night at the manor. Do you remember how you felt then? Recalling that time, she wondered how I felt. Seeing that she seemed to remember, the puppy continued happily. That's right, trying to recall those feelings is a good idea. How did you feel, Master? Scared, curious, or excited? Heiser tapped her finger on the table and thought, let me think. After a moment, she said, I felt angry. I wanted to hunt each and every one of you down and beat you to a pulp. Seeing this, the puppy asked fearfully, hey, are all humans as violent as she is? Logan replied helplessly, no, only a master. Seeing the two of them, Heiser shouted angrily, I can't hear you. She sighed helplessly and thought, gosh, even my puppy is nagging me now. Suddenly, she felt a power boiling inside her and thought, what's happening? It feels like my heart is on fire. The puppy quickly looked at her and announced, Master, the flow of magic is gradually stabilizing. Then it announced loudly, now is the time, cast a spell. Heiser asked in surprise now. She thought to herself, is this the feeling of stabilizing the flow of magic? Am I doing it right? Then she continued to think, but what if I create an uncontrollable fire again? But at that moment, Logan stepped forward, took her hand, and comforted her, don't worry, my lady. Your puppy and I will intervene if any problems arise. He quickly encouraged her, please begin. As if empowered, Heiser stood in the middle of the room and thought, all right, I just need to do what I did that night at the mansion. What I need is an intense explosion of anger and excitement, those negative emotions. I need you to cooperate. A moment later, after she surprisingly managed to control the flame on her hand, she said happily, I did it. But she suddenly noticed something unusual. Heiser said loudly in fear, wait, it won't stop. Standing outside, Logan looked at her anxiously. At that moment, she still couldn't control the flame, thinking, I'm so scared. Seeing her silence, he grew more anxious and was about to rush forward. Lady Heiser, the puppy beside him, loudly stopped him. Don't stay put. Suddenly, the flame in her hand went out. Hughes stared blankly at her hand and said, "It's out." She thought to herself, "That's strange, I thought I couldn't control it." At that moment, the puppy smiled happily and said, "You had trouble controlling such a basic spell because your magic flow is too intense." Realizing the meaning in its words, Hughes smiled and said, "Did you put out the spell?" The puppy replied proudly, "It was me." Then it continued, "I will help Master control her magic, so don't worry about casting spells anymore." Hughes looked proudly at her pet, lifted it high, and said, "You're cuter than I thought, puppy." The puppy became even happier and said, "I told Master that your magic would improve with me here." Hughes quickly suggested, "I'll take you for a walk by the river tonight as a reward." A while later, the puppy left and Hughes said wearily, "Finally, it's just us." She looked at him and asked, "So what do we do now?" Without answering the question immediately, Logan quickly reminded her, "Please sit up straight, my lady." Hughes smiled and replied, "Come on, it's just us here." He did not agree with her point of view and said coldly, "There are no exceptions. Anyway, this is what we will be learning today." Logan put on his glasses and began to teach. The words he wrote on the blackboard were the Apedro family line. Hughes wondered in surprise, "The family line?" Looking at her, Logan calmly continued, "This is the family tree. It contains the history of the prestigious Apedro lineage. You need to learn it because you are now a member of the Apedro family." Looking at the paper in her hand, Hughes replied in disbelief, "Do I need to memorize the names of my ancestors from 300 years ago? Is that really necessary? Their bodies have probably turned to ash by now." Logan replied seriously, "Without a past, there is no future." Hughes didn't know how to respond and just looked at him in silence, thinking, "He's handsome and well-spoken too. How annoying. I can't believe someone like that exists." Then Hughes looked at him and said with a smile, "For now, let's focus on the living people first. The past and the future are both important, but not as important as the present, right?" Logan replied calmly, "Very well, if you insist. I will explain everything slowly, my law," he said, and began to explain. Currently, there are 6 people with the surname Apedro, not including the Duke. Hearing this, she let out a cry of surprise, but he paid no mind and continued explaining. "Now there are 7 since you joined. First is Duchess Farina Apedro. Her maiden name was Guild. Her father is Marquis Guild." Hyuga asked wonderingly, Isn't she my maternal grandmother?" Logan denied it. "No, Duchess Farina Apedro is the Duke's second wife." Hyuga thought to herself, "She probably won't like me very much, huh? She and I have no blood relation, so she must see me as an illegal intruder or something of the sort." Seeing she said no more, Logan continued, "Sir Freddie is the biological son of Duchess Farina. He is 3 years younger than you, miss." Recalling before, she asked in surprise, "So the outfit I wore back then belonged to him?" She thought to herself, "The maids must have brought me his clothes when I asked for something other than a maid's uniform. I've never met him, but it feels like we're getting closer." Logan replied, "Yes, and Sir Pierre, the Duke's eldest son. This is Lady Cle, who has the same mother as Lady Lucian. Sir Kima, Sir Pierre's son, and you are cousins with Sir Kima, miss. And this is Lady Otis, Sir Pierre's wife." Seeing his pace quicken as he explained, she thought to herself, "Huh? Wait," she shouted in fear. "Slowly, I need some time to think. Why are you rushing as if you're about to talk about all 300 people in the family tree at once?" Logan looked at her and replied, "I apologize. Was I too hasty? But I'll be testing you on the family tree tomorrow, so you must memorize everything today." "Miss," she asked in disbelief, "What?" Looking at him, she thought in fear, "What is he talking about?" Hyuga stood up angrily, pointed at him, and said, "Wait a minute, you're going to test me on it tomorrow?" Logan asked, confused, "Do you need more time?" Seeing his attitude, she grew even more irritated and replied, "Listen here, I'm not a genius like you." Logan continued to suggest, "Are 2 days enough?" Hyuga firmly objected, 5 days, I need at least 5 days. He negotiated further, 3 days. She disagreed, replying, "For days." Seeing her determination, Logan accepted. "All right, for days then." He thought to himself, "I still think 1 day is enough to memorize everything." Hyuga cried out happily. Suddenly she stopped and thought to herself, "How could he think I could memorize it all in just 1 day?" Then she looked at him and asked, "By the way, among the people you just mentioned, will any of them accept my existence?" Logan replied seriously, "Certainly not, but it would be to your advantage if they acted as if you didn't exist." Hearing that, she sadly thought to herself, "I'm about to meet my family for the first time, but he's telling me it's best if they treat me like a rock on the side of the road." Hyuja asked again, confused. Why are they so wary of me? The Duke wouldn't make me his successor, would he? Logan shook his head in disagreement and replied, we don't know yet. You could become a potential heir after you complete your nobility course. Hyuja said in surprise. Usually the eldest son of the family is the heir, isn't that right? Logan calmly glanced at her and replied, the Duke has not chosen an heir yet, so everyone is a potential heir. Hyuja thought to herself. Let's see, my mother was the eldest daughter of the ducal Aparo family, and based on the family line, I have the most abundant amount of magic in this family. I understand now why everyone dislikes me. Being too talented is also a sin. With that thought, she raised her hands to the sky in a prayerful gesture, silently praying. Anyway, they'll be away for another month, so I guess I still have time to think about it. The scene changes to the next morning. Hyuja yawned sleepily while walking in the flower garden with the puppy, saying, ugh, I'm so sleepy. Come on, puppy, let's go inside. Walking has made me quite tired. Hyuja suddenly noticed something in front of her. She asked in surprise, so many carriages. Are we having guests today? The puppy walking beside her panted and replied, I don't think they're guests. There's too much luggage here. Hyuja thought in confusion. Who could it be then? Then she turned her head and said, let's go inside first. Otherwise, Logan will nag me again. At this, she wondered, I wonder if he ever gets tired of nagging all the time? Suddenly, the butler ran over worriedly. There you are, miss. I've been looking for you. Hyuja looked at him, confused, and asked, what is it? Is something wrong? The butler smiled and made a suggestion. I know this is quite sudden, but could you hand the puppy over to me? I will give a bath and bring it to your room. Then looking at the busy scene around them, he continued, I will explain everything later, miss. Hyuja also noticed and thought to herself, what are they making such a fuss about? Now I'm curious about what's going on. Thinking this, she quickly handed the puppy to the butler, saying, all right, please be gentle with him. The butler replied happily, yes, miss, thank you. Following the puppy's frightened gaze, Hyuja said with a mischievous smile, see you later, puppy. Communicating silently with her eyes, she threatened, you know what to do, right? Find out what's going on. Going inside the house, she was even more surprised. There's so much luggage. It looks like someone is preparing to go somewhere. Seeing the dresses in the hall, she approached and touched one, thinking in awe, oh my god, this dress looks so heavy. It feels like all the jewels would fall off if I move too much. I guess beauty has its price. Cutting off her train of thought, someone suddenly approached and yelled, hey! Hyuja was startled and turned to look at the blonde man in front of her, asking gently, do I know you, sir? Without waiting for her to prepare, he slapped her across the face. Hyuja was stunned. All eyes turned in this direction. Hyuja held her face and thought angrily, what the hell? Who is this guy and why did he do that? Looking at the face flushed with anger in front of her, she thought to herself, this guy has shiny, curly blonde hair, light brown eyes, and even freckles on his nose. I don't recognize this guy. Wait, this isn't my business. Hyuja raised her hand with the thought, this brat needs to be taught a lesson. With that thought, she raised her hand and slapped him straight across the face. The servant standing nearby quickly ran over and asked, young master, are you all right? He became even angrier and shouted, don't touch me. Then he pointed at Hyuja's face and continued, how dare you? Do you know who I am? Hearing that, she wasn't scared and just said calmly, I don't care. You hit me first. He looked at her in disbelief and asked, what? Hyuja continued, I was just returning the favor. I don't think I did anything wrong. And who are you to dare slap me like that? Ignoring the person trembling with anger in front of her, she shouted, you think I'd let you go after you slapped me? He gritted his teeth and said, you damn thief. After hearing that, she smiled even wider and thought to herself, is that all you've got? Then she stepped forward, grabbed his shoulder tightly, and said, hey, you'd better behave yourself, or else I'll. And you, then I'll. And that thing of yours. The more he listened, the more frightened he became, trembling as he spoke. How dare you say such disgusting things? Suddenly, a voice called from behind. Sir Freddy, Hyuja realized with a start. Freddy, it turns out, is the son of Duchess Farina. Hyuja had just done the unexpected. She covered her mouth and mumbled, okay, let's calculate. He's my mother's half-brother, so he would be my uncle. Hyuja looked at Freddy frowning uncomfortably among the maids. She panicked. Did I just slap my uncle? Her mouth fell open, astonished at what she had just done. What have I done? I know I let myself go sometimes, but I try not to cross the line. Hyuja immediately approached him worriedly and asked, "Hey, I mean Sir Freddy, are you alright?" Freddy dodged, as if avoiding a demon, even covering his face, afraid she would offend him again. "Don't touch me, you filthy thief." Hyuja shrugged in response. "How was I supposed to know we were related?" He shouted angrily. "Related? A commoner like you and I can't share the same family." She frowned at him, fuming with rage, and declared wearily, "Then I guess you'll have to change your surname, sir." "What?" Hyuja nonchalantly asked what she was wondering. "Anyway, why did you slap me?" Freddy shouted reproachfully. "I was just punishing you because you dare to touch my things, you thief. My actions were justified." She frowned in confusion. "When did I touch your things?" Suddenly, a flash of insight went through her mind. "Wait, is he talking about his clothes?" Hyuja calmly replied, "If you're talking about your clothes, the Duke gave me permission to wear them. I had them washed clean after wearing them." The maids silently prayed for her. Seeing her so nonchalant, Freddy snapped angrily. "What's the difference? You think I would wear something that you've touched? I threw that filthy thing away." Suddenly he clutched his cheek in pain. "Ouch!" Hyuja panicked, covering her mouth and mumbling, "I hope his teeth aren't broken. I didn't even punch him, just a light slap." She had to act like a dutiful cousin, rushing forward to show concern. "Does it hurt a lot?" "Let me see." He recoiled, his face pale with fear, and backed away. "Stay away from me." Freddy suddenly raised his hand high. She closed her eyes, bracing herself with regret. "Damn it, is he going to slap me again? I shouldn't have tried to help someone who hates me." A hand appeared just in time to stop him. It was Logan. He grimaced and squeezed Freddy's trembling wrist, saying, "I think that's enough, young master." He shouted in a rage. "Logan, how dare you?" Freddy couldn't contain his anger and directly punched Logan straight in the face. Hyuja was stunned and shouted his name. "Logan." Inside the bedroom of the Duchess of Pero, she was listening to a maid recount everything. "So you mean she punished the servants on her own whim?" The maid replied respectfully, "Yes, the servants' wages for this month depend on what they do." She said that the Duke gave her permission to do so. Farina frowned slightly, displeased. There's no way he would grant such power to someone who has just become a member of the family. She turned to ask the maid who was bowing respectfully before her, "Do you believe what she said, Henrietta?" The head maid bowed her head again and continued. But the Duke didn't intervene at all. The Duchess leaned back and replied wearily, "Because it's not worth his time and effort. He has nothing to gain by getting involved in such trivial matters." The head made Henrietta press for Duchess Farina's opinion. But would a commoner dare to do such things without fear if she didn't have the Duke's permission? She replied calmly, "I'm not sure. Maybe she's too stupid and doesn't know what she's doing. Or she's smarter than she looks." She gave a meaningful smile. "I hope it's the former. The Duke despises foolish people, so she will lose the Duke's support without me having to lift a finger. If there's anything I need to be concerned about, it wouldn't be the whore who used to be a waitress in a small town. But it would be Viscount Charles, that cunning poisonous snake." Farina extremely disliked this. For some reason, the Duke trusts Charles as if he were his own son, and that Viscount has also pledged his loyalty to my husband. She asked again, "Viscount Charles is taking care of her, isn't he?" The head maid nodded respectfully. "Yes, my lady, the Viscount has helped her settle in and with her studies." Farina mumbled unhappily. "That cunning brat, I don't know how he could do it without anyone in the family knowing." Hearing this, the head maid's eyes also filled with hateful displeasure. She said to her mistress, "I know she is the daughter of Lady Lucia, but in the end, she is just a commoner. Are you going to let her do whatever she wants just because she now also wants to bear the Apejo name, my lady?" Lady Farina scowled and glanced at the head maid, saying, "Henrietta, I just told you, we have nothing to gain from interfering in such petty matters, so I need you to watch her attitude. She isn't a Apejo now." Henrietta frowned and clenched the hem of her dress, not daring to show her anger, "But she's just a commoner, while I was born a noble. I will not be threatened by that little Hyuja. Moreover, I'm sure the impatient ones will act first if I just wait long enough." A maid burst through the door in a hurry. "My lady, Sir Freddy and Lady Hyuja are fighting in the waiting hall. He is still angry and has just laid a hand on Logan." "You," Hyuja mumbled, not understanding Logan's intention. "I don't understand. Why didn't he stop him?" Freddy still hadn't stopped. His anger was still flaring up. His fist was already flying. "You think you're right, don't you? Asking too many questions?" She mumbled a curse to herself. This guy is a lunatic. Hyuja couldn't let this go. She stepped forward more firmly towards him. "This is enough." She landed a blow on Freddy. He fell to the ground with a piercing scream. "Ah." The maids also recoiled in shock. They ran a check on him. "Are you all right, young master?" Hyuja looked at them with contempt. What the hell? They didn't even care when Logan and I were hit. Freddie had a long stream of blood from his nose. His face was also scratched and red. He cried like a child, throwing a tantrum, and ordered the maid standing there, go call my mother here. Hyuja looked at the overgrown boy, crying for his mother with a huge smile, leaning forward to taunt him. Oh, you want to see your mother? Do you miss your mommy? What? Her eyes sparkled as she stared at Freddie and asked with a frown, did you wet your bed or something? Why would a big guy like you call for his mother? Do you need her to change her diaper for you? A hand suddenly appeared and covered her mouth tightly. Hyuja mumbled irritably at him. Why did you stop me? I was just getting started. Logan's face looked so adorable up close to her, blushing red like a ripe tomato. May I speak with you for a moment? Lady Hyuja. She refused to listen and still wanted to settle the score with him. Let me go, I'm not done yet. I'll teach you a lesson. Logan tried to pull her back. Save for next time, miss. Hyuja was still frowning, angrily pointing and scolding. Hey, you should watch your back. I'll be keeping an eye on you. Freddie sat on the ground, trembling with fear. Did you hear me clearly? Hyuja returned to her room in a worried mood. I'm sorry. She bowed her head to express her remorse. I didn't mean to mess everything up, but after I saw him punch you, I lost my temper. Logan stepped forward, very concerned for Hyuja. Let me see your face. On his hand was a layer of soothing cream that he was slowly bringing towards her. Her eyes welled up with tears as she apologized to him. I'm really sorry. He touched her face, gently rubbing the wound, and asked again, really? She shook her head and winced slightly as the cool medicinal cream touched her skin. I didn't want to put you in such an awkward situation. It doesn't hurt that much, Logan replied with a smile. I won't get into trouble because you were the one who hit him, miss. Hyuja froze and turned away in a huff. You're too strict with me. Logan chuckled and then spoke to her seriously. Sir Freddie uses his power to torment those he deems weaker than himself. He especially enjoys abusing those who are physically weaker than him. Hyuja nodded in agreement. Yeah, I can see that. After a moment, she propped her chin on her hand and raised an eyebrow cheerfully. I'm sorry for putting you in a difficult position, but I don't regret what I did. My mother told me to fight back if someone dares to. Hit me. Logan put the medicine back in a medical box and nodded. I agree to some extent. Hyuja frowned. You don't completely agree? His dark eyes reminded her. You don't need to get angry because I was hit, miss. Her expression was unhappy when she heard him say this. She shouted angrily, I want you to be on my side, but I don't want it to be just a one-way street. Logan, I don't want you to sacrifice yourself for me. Hyuja replied angrily, I will protect my friends and allies. His cheeks immediately flushed when he heard her say that. Logan gently told Hyuja, yes, but you're making things more complicated, miss. This made her frown unhappily and turn away in anger. I just said something really cool, but that's his only comment? With that, she glanced at the man whose face was blushing. He may be handsome, but he's too cold. He also advised Hyuja to be careful. I have called for Dorothy to bring an ice pack for you to put on your cheek, miss. But she quickly snatched the first aid box and said with a smile, no, it's your turn, Logan. He immediately refused, pushing away her attempt. I'm fine. But Hyuja didn't care. She took out the cream. Even when Logan repeated, I'm really fine, Hyuja held his face firmly, forcing him to do as she wished. Hyuja touched the cream to his face and mumbled in a daze. What is this? Even his skin is so beautiful. She chuckled, mischievously looking at his face. I guess getting slapped wasn't so bad since it allowed me to touch this beautiful face. But right after, her eyes flared with a frightening glint that even Logan could feel. Freddie, that bastard. How dare he punch someone as handsome as Logan? You will pay for this. At this moment, Dorothy appeared at the door and peeked in. Excuse me, miss. The maid Dorothy peeked in and saw a remarkable scene between the two passionate people on the chair. What is it? She also realized her posture with Logan was improper. What was that? My precious moment. She bowed respectfully to her two masters. The lady would like to invite you both to have dinner with her tonight. Hyuja was sharp enough to realize what was hidden behind it. The lady, she means Duchess Apetso. Am I about to be reprimanded for hitting her son? She even imagined a scene where Logan held her hand tightly and said gently, Lady are you ready for this? As if she had a shoulder to lean on. Hyuja proudly nodded in agreement, of course. In the evening, the four people who disliked each other had a meal at the same table. Sit down. She and Logan sat down respectfully with the lady. Thank you for inviting us, my lady. Farina acted like a gentlewoman and turned to ask Hyuja, you are Hyuja, correct? She nodded and replied, yes, my lady. Realizing there was a problem with the question, Logan coughed lightly as a reminder. She frowned, startled, and thought, what is it? Are you trying to remind me of something? After a moment of confusion, Hyuja realized the real issue. She tilted her head and corrected her answer. I am Hyuja Apetso now. Freddy immediately stood up and shouted angrily. You are not an Apetso, a commoner like you cannot bear the Apetso name. Farina glanced over to remind her son, Freddy, behave yourself. He yelled, but mother. She frowned and reminded him, that was your father's decision. Have you forgotten? Freddy shouted loudly. He can't just decide this on his own without discussing it with the family. Seeing him angry, Logan interjected with a very indifferent expression. Why is that? Freddy's anger flared. He slammed the table and seethed with rage. How dare you? Logan replied with a stone-cold face. I'm only asking out of concern for you, sir, because it sounds like. He bluntly stated his point. You were planning to go against the Duke's decision. He was exposed and snapped. That's not what I meant. Farina had to step in to defuse the situation, smiling as she explained to Logan. I hope you will forgive Freddy. Lady, he is still just a boy. Hyuja laughed it off, of course, my lady, but inside she was screaming at the top of her lungs. Not all. I've been working since I was his age. Then, Lady Farina brought up her concerns about today's altercation. Actually, I was very surprised by what happened. She turned to Hyuja and said, I heard you were the daughter of Lady Lucia, but I never had the chance to meet her. She nodded and replied, yes, I understand that. Farina gently put on a noble air to speak with him. I know that the order came from the Duke himself, so I will try to get used to you. She also showed a hidden meaning in her next words. But I wish you would have told me about this, so I wouldn't have to find out from others. Logan's expression immediately hardened. Farina subtly reminded him, you wouldn't forget that I am the Duchess of the Apetso family, would you? Hyuja witnessed the whole thing and mumbled her assessment. So this is how nobles elegantly talk down to others? Logan nodded in reply. I did not want to disturb you while you were away for the social season, my lady. I sincerely apologize if I have disappointed you. She smiled meaningfully. Oh, I see. You're being very cautious. Hyuja nodded, observing everything. This is quite interesting. Then, Lady Farina got to the main point. So what is your excuse for fighting with Freddy, Lady Hyuja? Hyuja had been waiting for this question. She flicked her hair and gestured. I think that question should be reserved for your son, my lady. Hyuja pointed at the angry Freddy and teased. He was the one who hit me first. Logan glanced over and let out a soft sigh. As for him, he was so angry he was grinding his teeth in frustration. You. Freddy stood up, pointed at her, and tattled to his mother. You're the one who wore my clothes without asking permission first. Hyuja feigned surprise, then nonchalantly shrugged and explained, the Duke said I could wear them, so if you have a problem with that, you can go talk to the Duke. Do you need me to do it for you if you're too scared? He pointed straight at her face and said to Farina, Mother, do you see that? Do you see the look in her eyes? Hyuja's calm retort made him furious. Well, I can't talk to you with my eyes closed, can I? I have to open them like this. What did you just say? The lady then interjected. You have a point, Lady Hyuja. Seeing Farina take her side, he started whining. Mother. The lady frowned and replied, but you have no right to hit Freddy because he hit Viscount Charles. Hyuja understood her meaning and smiled faintly. So this is how it's going to be? Logan turned and said coldly, it's because, not wanting him to say anything, she grabbed his hand as a reminder and then asked Duchess Farina again, you need me to apologize for what I did, right? My lady. She nodded and replied, if it's necessary. Hyuja nodded, one hand holding his while speaking gently to the Duchess. All right, I will apologize to Sir Freddy if he apologizes to Sir Charles. But she refused. There's no need to do anything about what happened between Freddy and Viscount Charles. But she didn't want things to end halfway like that. Hyuja tilted her head and replied, I don't think so, my lady. Sir Charles was hit because Sir Freddy was angry with me. At this point, Farina could no longer contain her anger and said with a frown, Lady Hyuja, are you saying you want my son, a member of the prestigious Apiro family, to go and apologize to a mere viscount? Hyuja mumbled angrily. I knew it. She might be good at hiding it with an elegant smile, but Farina thinks the world revolves around her because she's a noble. The lady gave a profound reminder. You should choose your allies carefully, lady. Hyuja. She also reminded Hyuja to be more mindful. Soon, the other members of the family will return. I have no ill feelings towards you, but I'm not sure if the others think the same. Hyuja asked bluntly, do you want me to be on your side, my lady? She smiled faintly with a hidden meaning. Oh, is that how you feel? She didn't hide it either and expressed herself frankly. Should I be honest with you, my lady? Farina nodded in agreement for her to speak. Go ahead. Hyuja smiled contemptuously. It sounds like you're saying you want Sir Charles as your ally, not me. Logan's expression was emotionless, but inside, he was a tangled mess. I was right. Glancing at Freddy, who looked dejected, Hyuja also felt a sense of weary resignation. Tisk. This guy isn't even aware of what's going on. I'm sure he can't become a good leader. Farina was exposed on the spot. She rested her chin on her hand, trying to swallow her anger. How interesting. Returning to the room, Hyuja angrily expressed her feelings. What does she want? Logan reminded her. You should lower your voice, miss. She crossed her arms in frustration. The way she tried to mock us is so annoying. He had to close the door to reduce the noise and then reminded Hyuja. You should get used to it. That's how most nobles talk to each other. But why? He thought for a moment, then replied. They think being direct with each other is too rude. And please be careful with your actions, miss. Hyuja was a tangled mess. Ugh, this is so annoying. Why is everyone so fake? Wouldn't it be better to be direct with each other? Then she pointed straight at Logan and said bluntly, Hey, I want you to be on my side. Then, she made an example and told him, See, this is much easier. Logan stared at her and the way she was acting. Logan asked seriously, Does that mean you would agree to become the Duchess's ally if she were to ask? Hyuja denied loudly. Of course not. She sees me as a stepping stone to get to you. I hate that, he calmly exclaimed. So this is what makes you angry. She frowned slightly and criticized loudly. I also don't like the way she tries to control you, he replied with some surprise. Oh, I didn't think you cared about me that much. Patting her chest, she assured him loudly. You're on my side, Logan. We are allies. And besides, you just need to listen to what I say. That's all. He raised an eyebrow slightly and said with concern, I don't think you should assume I would be willing to do as you please like that. She suddenly stared at him, her mouth agape in astonishment, thinking to herself, how can he still look so handsome making a face like that? Even his sour, reluctant expression looks dashing and cool. So cool. How could you hurt this beautiful face, that Freddy guy? Then she suddenly plopped down on the chair and said, fuming, Anyway, I really hate that kid Freddy. That, if he tries to hit you again, I'll pull out all his hair like this. Logan heard this and said with some worry, Becoming the Duchess's enemy will put you at a disadvantage. Biting her nails, Hyuja replied in a low voice, I know, I get it. Then she suddenly recalled what Farina had said to her. That's the kind of boldness the Duke will be pleased with. I'm starting to like you more. However, you are a bit inconsiderate. I don't want Viscount Charles sitting with us while I'm bargaining over him like this. Moreover, perhaps we should overlook and forget all of today's misunderstandings and disagreements. It will do us no good if the Duke finds out about this. Anyway, welcome to the Apiro family, Lady Hyuja Apiro. As soon as she finished reminiscing, Hyuja asked, How will you answer her, Logan? Logan replied, I will tell her that I have also thought about it. She doesn't know that we have been wary of her intentions all this time. She suddenly let out a breath and asked again, Why do we have to do things so secretively? He calmly explained, It's better to have as many cards in your hand as possible. The more the better, instead of showing them all to the enemy. That's how you make the most of them in a game. She didn't reply immediately, thinking to herself with some dissatisfaction. The card that Farina and I were talking about is Logan Charles, but why? He continued to explain. Because the Duchess wants me, you could have used me and led that conversation in a direction favorable to you. She raised an eyebrow skeptically and asked, Even if doing so makes me uncomfortable? He asked calmly, I don't understand why that would make you uncomfortable, my lady. She affirmed seriously in a loud voice, Because you're not an object or a card. You're a human being, a person very close to me. He couldn't help but ask in bewilderment, You think we're close? She broke into a sweat and asked back, Aren't we? He continued calmly, Why do you think so? Which made her think to herself in a daze, Why am I suddenly so confused? I just told him we're close because I thought so. But when he asked why I think so, I can only say it's because I feel close to him. Wait a minute, is it just me? Or does this word close sound a bit strange? What am I thinking? What is this intimate, close thing? Just then, someone suddenly knocked on the door and said respectfully, Excuse me, Lady Hyuja. She didn't reply immediately, but happily clasped her hands together and smiled brightly, thinking to herself, Oh, my savior, who will save me from this black hole of closeness? But as soon as Dorothy opened the door and walked in, for some reason Hyuja's face suddenly fell. Holding the wolf in her arms, she said with a smile, I brought the puppy, my lady. Seeing it sleeping so soundly in Dorothy's arms made her a little stunned, thinking to herself, Is it enjoying its life? A moment later, seeing the wolf was still sleeping soundly. So Huser called out loudly, "Hey, wake up!" Logan commented seriously, "I'm glad it at least doesn't talk in its sleep in human language." Poking its side, she called out loudly, "Hey puppy, wake up." As soon as she finished speaking, it suddenly opened its eyes wide. Then it quickly stood up and complained loudly, "Do you have any idea what I had to endure at the hands of those strangers?" Seeing this, Huser couldn't help but think with some contempt. It says that while flaunting its shiny fur, its words aren't convincing at all. Then she quickly held out her hand and affirmed in a stern voice, "Anyway, I didn't send you to enjoy such lux. Yuri's." It immediately slapped her hand away and questioned loudly, "Do you think I'm your errand boy, master?" She asked in bewilderment. "Huh, aren't you? You're my familiar," it replied, burning with anger. "I don't do such trivial things. I represent greatness and extraordinary power." She immediately cut it off. "But you're not useful at all," which made it cry out in despair. "Ah," she asked loudly, "am I wrong? You said you would teach me magic, yet I have to struggle with it on my own. All you're doing is just adjusting my magical power. Am I wrong?" It replied with a trembling voice. "That's because you lack the basic skills. Think about it. I also have some value when it comes to information and stuff, master." At this point, it immediately continued in its heart. "That's what I think." Then it continued to analyze. "According to the servants who bathed me, it seems that everyone in the family will return tonight. I'm sure everyone noticed when the Duchess left the main house." It quickly continued. "From what I heard, animal fur makes the Countess sneeze a lot. That's why the servants scrub me so much. They brush my fur and even put scented oil on me until my fur was shiny and smooth. I especially like the canola scented oil. Oh my god, it smelled so sweet. And also," Huser waved her hand in annoyance and said, "Whatever, I don't care what scented oil you like." It replied awkwardly. Then she suddenly became thoughtful, thinking to herself, "That Countess must be Clara Pyro. She is my mother's younger sister." Thinking of this, she couldn't help but recall what Logan had told her. Lady Lucia's younger sister, Lady Claire, is currently the one with the strongest magic in the Pyro family. Moreover, she has insisted that she must become the next Duke of Pyro. She asked again in wonder, "You said she is a countess, so is she married?" He immediately denied it. "No, she received that title for her achievements. She is still single." After reminiscing, Huser continued to think to herself, "I will never bring this puppy in front of Claire. I don't intend to flatter her, but I will try not to offend her, as she already hates me for my existence." The wolf suggested excitedly, "Human, smell my fur, it smells great." After thinking, she suddenly asked curiously, "What's Claire like?" Logan replied gently, "She lives by a dualistic mindset and is very straightforward. She is very clear about what she likes and dislikes. So once she has decided she doesn't like something, it's very difficult to change her mind." She asked curiously, "Does Claire like you?" He answered immediately, "I only follow the Duke's orders." Seeing him smile, with his eyes narrowed, like that made her face fall as she thought to herself, "So that means she doesn't." The wolf suddenly spoke. "Oh, and also, I heard something that I found a bit annoying." She heard this and asked suspiciously, "Something that you found annoying?" It quickly explained. "They said there will be a ceremonial dinner held the day after tomorrow." She asked with wide-eyed astonishment, "Ceremonial? What does that mean?" Logan explained in a serious tone, "It means it will be a family dinner, so all the family members will be there." Still clueless about the matter, Huser quickly asked again, "A ceremonial dinner? What is that?" Logan gently explained, "It means it will be a family dinner, so all the family members will be there." She asked again in wonder, "So does that mean the day after tomorrow is a special day?" Rubbing his chin, he replied with suspicion, "No, it's not. That's what makes it suspicious. I bet one of the other members mentioned this." She raised an eyebrow and continued, "I think it might be a welcome dinner for me to the family." He immediately gave his opinion. "I think they're trying to play a prank on you, my lady." She asked in astonishment, "A prank? What kind of prank can you play at a dinner party?" He asked seriously, "Lady Huser, do you know how many pieces of cutlery are used at a dinner party?" She couldn't help but think in a daze. Why is he suddenly asking me about cutlery? He asked again, "If the main course served as fish, which wine would you choose, and which one when the main course is meat?" Scratching her face, she broke into a sweat and asked dazedly, "Can I just drink whatever they give me?" He didn't reply, but thought silently for a moment. Seeing this, she smiled brightly and said, "All right, I know they'll make a fool of me, but so what? You can sit next to me and teach me so I don't make any mistakes, right?" The wolf suddenly spoke. "Master, are you paying any attention at all?" This person said, "It's a family dinner. He's not allowed to be there." Hugheser heard this and thought with some annoyance, "Even that puppy looks down on me, but what it said isn't wrong." Then she suddenly fell silent, thinking about something for a moment. Then she frowned and asked loudly, "So what should I do?" Lojin then suggested, "I will teach you everything by the end of the day." Hearing him say that made her tear up, thinking to herself, "I'll probably have to stay up all night tonight. Being a lady or a noble is so hard to live. My God, I can't believe I have to learn table manners again at the age of 20. What is this?" Lojin calmly began to instruct. An Apejo family dinner consists of 7 courses. Soup, a fish dish, salad, the main course, roasted nightingale, dessert, and fruit tea. You will use the utensils for the meal from the outside in and use the correct type for each dish. When you have finished eating, you must place the cutlery on the plate, not on the table. The servants will come and clear them away. The Duke will say something to signal that dinner has begun. You can start eating when everyone else does. Scratching her head, Hugheser confirmed with a smirk. "Okay, I get it." Lojin continued to instruct. "When you eat soup, be careful not to make any noise." Looking at him, she couldn't help but blush, thinking to herself, "He looks so graceful just eating soup. No, we have to do this together. I'm just being slow because I'm mesmerized by his beauty. I'm doing fine, right?" Lojin suddenly reminded her, "You have finished the soup, my lady. Tomorrow you should only eat 3 spoonfuls. Try to eat twice as slowly as you did today." Hugheser asked in shock, "What soup? Why can't I finish it? It's too delicious. Doing so is disrespectful to the chef." Then she couldn't help but recall a painful memory from the past and thought in horror, "I used to have a hard time when guests left a lot of leftovers." Lojin seriously reminded her, "Your gluttony would be a rather serious flaw for a noble woman. They will criticize you if you eat everything." Hearing that, she was extremely indignant, so she immediately questioned loudly, "What's wrong with enjoying my food?" He calmly replied, "Tomorrow you won't have the chance to enjoy the food. You see, you can't possibly wear casual clothes to a dinner full of rules." She asked, stunned. "Huh," he calmly explained. "The clothes you have to wear will be very uncomfortable, so it will be very difficult for you to digest food." Hearing this, she was shocked and asked again, "You mean I have to wear a tighter corset? Why would anyone invent such a monstrous thing?" "Because those are the things to be expected at a fancy dinner." Then she thought in utter amazement, "Competing to see who is the most foolish, is that the standard of etiquette for nobles?" Looking at the bread basket in front of him, he asked, "Now then, how are you going to eat the bread?" She gently used a knife to cut the bread and replied, "Well, I'll cut the bun in half and spread it." Suddenly realizing something, she thought with some surprise, "Oh." Then she quickly picked up the bread and asked, "Is there no butter?" He replied, "It's right in front of you, my lady," she asked dazedly. "Where?" He didn't answer, but gently tapped the lid of the box in front of her a few times. Then he used a knife to take some butter from inside. Seeing this, she exclaimed in her thoughts, "Wow." Then with wide, admiring eyes, she uttered a sentence. "What is that? That's so cool." He broke into a sweat and bluntly reminded her, "My lady, please don't use such words." Struggling to spread with the knife, she asked in confusion, "Huh, this is so strange. Why isn't mine working?" Seeing her struggling, he quickly stood up, went to her side, and instructed, "I'll show you a trick. Instead of placing the knife on its side, you should use the tip of the knife. You need to apply more force to the handle. Your shoulders are a bit tense. Relax a little, my lady. Goodness, my lady, please breathe." After a moment of being frozen, because Lojin was too close, Hugheser's whole face had turned as red as a bell pepper. Not only that, she had also forgotten to breathe, so as soon as she heard him say that, she immediately let out a puff of air to catch her breath. He saw this and asked with concern, "What's wrong? Is something bothering you?" Hearing him ask that, she thought to herself, "What's bothering me? Of course, it's your boldness and unnecessary touches, but I also quite like it. It's hard to breathe normally when such a handsome man is standing next to me." After thinking, Lojin then raised his hand to touch her forehead and asked gently, "My lady, your cheeks are flushed. Are you sick?" She blushed, shyly glanced away, and screamed loudly in her heart, "Hey." Then she quickly pushed his hand away and praised loudly, "It's because you're handsome, Lojin. How can you be so handsome? And why do you hold a woman's hand as if it's no big deal?" Hearing that, he was stunned for a moment. Then he apologized in a low voice. "I'm sorry for holding your hand without asking first." Covering her face, she said shyly, "Hey, I don't want to leave a bad impression on you. I'm just a little flustered because you're handsome." "Yes, that sounds about right." "Huh, you really are very handsome." Then she exclaimed in her thoughts, "Oh my God, it's true that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. No matter how much I restrain myself, I still have to surrender to handsome guys." He sweated and replied with a mumble, Thank you." She didn't reply but quickly covered her face, thinking shyly, "Now is not the time for that, Logan Charles. But my mother used to say, Huser, if you encounter a somewhat embarrassing situation, just be thick-skinned if you feel embarrassed. It can become your weakness. But if you are thick-skinned, everything will seem like you had it all planned. I will do as my mother said." After thinking, Huser immediately stood up and suggested loudly, "Logan, let's take a 10-minute break." Then she gently twirled a lock of her hair and smiled smugly, thinking to herself, "Okay, that's cool. I'll pretend to be a noble woman. I bet it looks like I'm making a big deal out of everything. I could take a short break, right? I wish someone was here to agree with me. I'd even take the puppy's agreement." After thinking, Huser quickly opened the door. Then she stepped out, but little did she know that Logan's cheeks had also suddenly turned red with shyness. I've always thought that Logan looked very handsome, but my heart has never beaten this fast. It must be the power of touch. His hands were bigger and firmer than I thought, and they were a little cold too. I wish I could feel them again. While Huser was lost in thought, someone suddenly asked, "Why aren't you eating anything? Is the food not to your liking?" She immediately explained, "No, it's delicious. It's just that I don't usually eat this much." The woman quickly asked back, "Really? That's great. I'm sure you've never had a meal like this before, yet you didn't eat much at all." She didn't reply but stared at her and thought to herself, "This must be Uncle Pierre's wife, Otis Apiro. She pretends to care about others, but she's actually looking down on my background. And this is their son, Kimo Apiro, the eldest son of Sir Pierre Apiro, Countess Claire Apiro." Thinking of this, she couldn't help but recall what she had asked Logan. Since he is the eldest son, Uncle Pierre is the one expected to become the next Duke of Pyro, right? He immediately explained, "Not necessarily. First of all, Sir Pierre has no magic. Lady Claire is the one with the strongest magic in the family when you look at this picture. You are the daughter of Lady Lucia, who had stronger magic than even Lady Claire. So she must hate me a lot." Slowly cutting the meat with her knife and fork, Mrs. Otis explained with a faint smile, "Oh, I think it's not that she doesn't dare to eat much, but that she just doesn't know how to enjoy dishes she's never had before." Huser forced a smile and exclaimed in her thoughts, "She's insulting me so blatantly." While preparing to cut the meat, the yellow-haired man suddenly asked curiously, "Father, why don't you give Huser a chance to choose the wine for tonight, now that she is a member of the Aparo family?" "Aparo? Do you know much about wine?" She didn't answer immediately, but raised an eyebrow and smirked to herself. "Aha, this must be why Pierre is the host of this dinner." Then she smiled brightly and recommended, "I think the Colette wine in the cellar would be good. What do you think?" He sneered and asked back, "Colette wine? Are you suggesting red wine with fish?" Seeing that he had taken the bait, she couldn't help but let out a small smirk. She confidently explained, "I looked in the wine cellar and found that most of the white wines in the manor are aged in oak barrels. When the woody aroma of the wine is combined with fish, it can make the fish taste fishier than usual." She quickly clasped her hands together and continued with a smile, "For a fish like the salmon served today, I think a red wine with high acidity like Colette would be the most suitable." Then she couldn't help but think smugly, "That's what Logan taught me. I just have to memorize it." The lady and the chef had already informed me of tonight's menu. "Sure, it's salmon." Seeing that she seemed quite knowledgeable about pairing wine with food, he could only remain silent, glaring at her and grinding his teeth in frustration. Holding the fork to spear her food, Mrs. Otis commented with a faint smile, "Well, it's you who knows nothing about wine, just repeating white wine for fish like a parrot." Mr. Pierre quickly crossed his arms and stated, fuming, "Lucia might have taught her daughter about wine." She immediately raised her hands and shrugged, then answered honestly, "No, I didn't learn anything about wine from my mother. I thought this was simple knowledge for a noble. Perhaps I was mistaken." Hearing that, he broke into a sweat and hurriedly turned back and forth to explain, "As a noble, everyone must have basic knowledge of magic. I heard that you inherited a little ma. GIC from Lucy." Huser gently placed her hand on her chest and affirmed with a smile, "Yes, that's right, and it has proven my worth as an aparo." Hearing that, he couldn't help but ask skeptically with contempt, "Really? We would also very much like to see that. I hear you're quite good at using fire. Why don't you show us a little of your ability?" Gently swirling the wine in her glass, Huser replied bluntly, I don't mind showing a little talent, but perhaps this is not appropriate during dinner. Then she suddenly broke into a sweat and smiled, thinking to herself, you can't make me chant a spell. I'm not confident yet. What I've learned is only the basics, like how to create fire. Now that I can't have the puppy by my side, I can't even control the fire. In some corner, the wolf suddenly spoke up critically. Now do you see my importance, Moss? Ter. Raising the wine glass in her hand, Mrs. Otis asked indifferently, why don't you let her do it, father? It's rare for the whole family to be together like this. When will she have to wait to be recognized by everyone? Hearing that, the Duke immediately suggested, all right, I would very much like to see your progress under the guidance of Viscount Charles. Huser broke into a sweat and explained confidently, Grandfather, is it really necessary to be recognized by everyone at this point? I have already proven my ability by staying at the Shadow Mansion. Then she teared up and clasped her hands, praying in her heart, Dear God, please, please let my lie succeed. He said, it's not necessary, but it's not a bad idea either. She heard that, then breathed a sigh of relief, then smiled and promised, I'm still learning, so I'm not really in the mood. I'm sure there will be a more suitable occasion for me to show my skills. Mr. Peer heard that, then let out a sneer and criticized, how ridiculous. What will you have left if you don't have magic in you? You're just the daughter of an ordinary gardener. I don't understand why you would refuse the opportunity to show off in front of everyone. Another person immediately chimed in. That's right, why don't you show us? You must be a good mage to have the confidence to attack me like last time, right? Mrs. Otis calmly crossed her arms and continued with a contemptuous smile. Personally, I think the amount of magic you have is just enough for you to enter this house and nothing more. Being constantly attacked by her relatives, Huser felt extremely hurt and bowed her head, thinking, I have no one on my side. I miss Lojin. He told me not to get into any trouble. Then she couldn't help but recall the question Lojin had asked her. Do you think you can solve the problem by cramming table etiquette at the last minute? Master, she frowned and asked angrily. You're my familiar. Don't you believe me? The wolf commented with a faint smile, by human standards, you don't seem to be a match for this human, which made her a little annoyed, thinking, hey, comparing me to Lojin is not fair at all. Then she affirmed loudly, I can do it, it's just a dinner. You believe me, right, Lojin? Why are you looking away, Lojin? He sincerely reminded her, I won't ask for much, my lady, just don't forget the purpose of this dinner. She dazedly scratched her face and asked, not to cause trouble? He immediately confirmed, that's right. Yawning, the wolf exclaimed, well, that could make me cry too. Hearing him say that, she couldn't help but say with some contempt, you're as timid as a rabbit, Lojin. Who knows, the Duke might acknowledge me as the most talented mage now. He sincerely commented, your current goal is already difficult enough. She frowned and cut him off loudly, oh come on. What if I make him more interested in me? He immediately continued, if you can do it, I will do as you say as a reward. As soon as the flashback ended, Huser immediately held out her hand and thought with all her heart, I believe in you. My magic skills, anger, rage, hatred, I have so many things to make me angry right now. This annoying family, these disrespectful people who keep trying to bother others, the delicious food that I can't finish, and this corset that's so tight I can't breathe. A moment later, as soon as she felt the power growing steadily within her, Huser immediately opened her eyes and thought happily, okay, I can feel it. After thinking, she quickly stood up and read the spell aloud. Then she pointed at the lamp in front of her and shouted again. Seeing that nothing happened to the candles, she couldn't help but think in confusion, that's strange, I could feel it. And she continued to shout the spell 2 more times, while wailing loudly, no way. Mr. Beer hurriedly rubbed his chin and then sneered, demanding, enough, I'm starting to feel embarrassed just watching you. His son suddenly stood up and shouted in panic, Father, your hair? He asked blankly, Then hurriedly stood up and screamed in terror, my goodness, honey, put out the fire, water, where's the water? Seeing the thing seemed to have gotten out of control, Huser couldn't help but freeze stiff on the spot, then thought in panic, this is a disaster. I'm sorry, Logan, I think I'm in trouble. He continued to scream in terror, I'm gonna die, save me. Beer shrieked in panic, put out the fire. He looked at the flame burning on his head and couldn't help but be scared to the point of tears, begging everyone around. Oh my God, put out the fire now. Huser was just as panicked, but she could only stand by helplessly. I haven't even learned how to do that yet. In her heart, she was also very scared. I think I'm about to cry. Beer screamed frantically, save me, save me. His wife and son rushed over to try to extinguish the flame, but to no avail. Aunt Cieli was still calmly sipping a mouthful of wine, glancing at the situation before her. After waiting for a long while, Cieli decided to stand up and help. She snapped her fingers. Magic was activated right before Huser's eyes. Cieli waved her hand, controlling the water to form a vortex above her head. Aunt Cieli collected water from everyone's glasses and even from the flower vase. The mass of water grew larger, and Huser's jaw dropped at the sight of Klee's magical ability. Then Aunt Cieli snapped her fingers one more time. The mass of water immediately burst and fell right on Beer's head. The flame on his head was thus extinguished. Beer coughed from choking on the water. His wife ran over worriedly. "Honey." Beer's head now had a large bald spot. His wife and son kept calling for him to get up. "Honey, are you okay?" "Father." After finishing, Cieli didn't even bother to glance at him, but just made a gesture of dusting off her hands. Huser on this side was still terrified. She trembled and thought to herself, "At least he's not dead. That's a good thing, right?" After the incident, Beer became furious. He gritted his teeth and muttered curses. You. Beer shouted loudly as he ran straight to Huser and cursed. "This was definitely your plan. You intended to kill me, you damn bitch." Huser waved her hands in denial. "I already said I wasn't good at it." Beer, embarrassed and angry, raised his hand to the sky, about to hit her. "I'll kill you, you bastard." But the voice of Duke Duck rang out. "Beer, that's enough. You're being impolite." Beer was about to grumble more, but Father Duke Duck cut him off and said, "You forced the child to perform when she already said she was still learning." Beer didn't want to lose. He argued loudly. "She deliberately set my hair on fire. It's clear she was trying to harm me. Father, you saw what she did." Duke Duck didn't want to argue further with this useless man, so he said a sentence that was like a bucket of cold water poured on his head. "Yes, I saw. I saw that even if you spend your whole life practicing, you could never do that." Then the Duke turned to her and said, "Huser." He gave a slight smile and praised Huser. "Well done. I have rarely seen such a powerful amount of magic since Lucy left, although I was a bit worried that you couldn't control it yet." Huser clenched her fists, showing her determination. She replied to him, "I will try harder, sir." Duke Duck suddenly offered her a reward. He said, "Since you've shown me something interesting, tell me what I can do for you." Huser was surprised and thought to herself, "This is my chance." She thought for a moment, then answered cautiously, "Can I accept that wish and use it later, please?" Duke Duck asked again, "You want to save it?" Huser was resolute with her previous answer. She replied, "I want to take time to think before making a decision. It's not every day I get the chance to be granted a wish by you." The Duke tried to guess her intention. "It seems you want something quite big." Huser cleverly answered his question. "I am sure it is within your capabilities." Hearing this intelligent answer, Duke Duck let out a laugh. Actually, Huser had thought about this a lot. This empire has 4 dukes, and Duke Apejo is the most powerful among them. He rules the largest and most fertile territory in this empire. So no matter what I want, the Duke will have enough power and authority to make it a reality. Duke Duck confidently told Huser, "Something within my capabilities? There is nothing I cannot do, so I guess it won't be too difficult." On the outside, Huser maintained her politeness and just smiled lightly, but inside she was celebrating. "I knew it. I knew flattery would be effective." Suddenly the Duke mentioned her mother. "You know, the more I look at you, the more I miss Lucy." Huser was stunned. She thought to herself, "He said the same thing last time. I don't know if this is a compliment or not." The meal had ended. After everyone had left, Huser hurriedly ran after Aunt Cieli stopped and asked, "What is it?" Huser expressed to her, "I'm sorry. I think I ruined dinner today." Cieli also replied honestly, "He won't say it's your fault." That idiot Beer brought everything upon himself. Seeing Huser say nothing more, Cieli started to ask the girl, "Is that all you want to say to me?" Huser hesitated and replied, "There's one more thing I want to ask you." Aunt Cieli immediately wondered, "What is it?" Huser was silent. She pursed her lips for a moment before bravely blurting out, "Do you hate me?" Aunt Cieli didn't answer the question directly, but asked Huser another question in return. "Do I need to like you?" Huser, as if partly understanding her aunt's meaning, repeated that. "I am the daughter of Lucia Apejo." Cieli replied, "Damn right. I wasn't very close to my sister." Huser continued, "You live a lot like my mother." But Cieli immediately retorted, "That's a natural thing between sisters." Huser was still a bit persistent. She said, "And controlling water is your special ability." Because in Hughes' thoughts, a person's special ability is not something that can be inherited. It is often influenced by each person's personality and character. Hughes had noticed this issue for a long time. Her Aunt Celie was very similar to her mother, from her appearance to her less obvious traits. A person cannot have so many similar traits just because they were born from the same mother. Hearing that, Aunt didn't beat around the bush anymore and said to her directly, I understand why you're saying these things. I heard that you and Freddie had a fight. And today you burned Beer's hair because you failed to befriend everyone. So you're planning to make me have a good impression of you? Seeing that she had been seen through, Hughes guiltily glanced away. She thought to herself, oh, she saw right through me. Aunt Celie continued, I'm sorry, Hughes Pejo. Sully stepped closer, lifted Hughes' face, and said to her directly, I hate Lucy very much, so there's no way I could like her daughter. Don't you think so? Hughes looked straight into Aunt Clee's eyes, thoughts appearing in her head. I know only one thing about Sue. She doesn't beat around the bush at all. Everything she says is the truth. Then Cieli didn't wait for Hughes' reply, but asked further, Hughes, when you receive the gift from your father, you'll let me know, won't you? I'm quite curious what you'll want. Scene change. At this time, Hughes had returned to her room to rest. She took off the suffocating corset on her body and thought, this is suffocating. Hughes suddenly thought of the words Logan had said to her before. You wouldn't know how painful it is to be bullied in a place where no one is on your side. She thought pensively. I don't know why Logan's words came to mind at this moment. It was late at night, and the corridor was already dark. Hughes walked along the path with many thoughts in her heart. She gently pushed the door and entered. As soon as she looked in, Hughes' eyes widened in surprise. She blurted out, Logan. Hughes tiptoed step by step. She gently approached the sofa where Logan was sleeping soundly. Looking at the situation, Hughes guessed to herself, it seems he fell asleep while reading a book. I thought he wasn't asleep yet. Hughes gently sat down right next to him. She rested her head on his shoulder and sighed. Suddenly his voice rang out. How was dinner, my lady? Hughes jumped and screamed. You startled me. I thought you were asleep. Logan explained, I woke up when you arrived. Hughes replied, you're kidding. Logan immediately changed the subject. He asked her, so how was dinner? Hughes forced a smile and replied, it was okay. She thought to herself, how should I explain this? I should probably leave out the part where I set Beer's hair on fire. Logan read her face and said, your hesitation seems to say that I won the bet. Hughes immediately retorted, no, not at all. The Duke was very pleased with me. He even said he would reward me. Logan asked again, really? Hughes replied to him, but with a very dejected expression. It's true. Logan asked with curiosity, then why do you look so depressed? Hughes rested her head on his shoulder and she whispered, because I think everyone except the Duke hates me. Hearing that, Logan replied, then it's not important. Heiser was a little surprised and asked back, not important? Logan repeated his earlier words, I told you from the beginning that no one here would welcome you. Heiser replied in a small voice, I know, but... Then she fell silent. Heiser suddenly fell heartbroken. She thought to herself, why do I feel so sad? As if understanding her mood, Logan reached out and took Heiser's hand. He held her hand tightly in place of words. Just like that, Heiser really felt better. She told herself, it will be okay, I have Logan by my side. After the noisy meal, a few rumors spread. Of course, it became a topic of discussion among the servants in the mansion. I heard the Duke tell Lady Heiser that she could become his successor. It seems the Duke is not wrong. Lady Heiser is the daughter of Lady Lucia, so she is qualified to be his heir. Another servant continued, who doesn't know that? The problem is that the Duke specifically mentioned Lady Heiser. Another maid joined the conversation. Oh, so whose side should we be on from now on? They were enthusiastically discussing the issue of succession. I think it's highly likely that young Master Pierre will become the Duke's heir. He's the eldest son. The other maid heard this and immediately objected. What are you talking about? Considering the Duchess's influence, Sir Freddie might be the next Duke of Pizzo, although he's still a bit young now. The remaining servant had another opinion. I have a feeling the Duke has thought of Lady Clay. She has also achieved more than her siblings. Suddenly, one of them mentioned Heiser's name. What about Lady Heiser? The atmosphere suddenly fell silent. She continued to speak. Doesn't anyone think that Lady Heiser will succeed the Duke? They were so busy talking animatedly that they didn't know Heiser's pet was behind them. Watching, it brought the story it had just heard back to its master. That is one of the servant's viewpoints. Heiser did not accept the truth. She lost her temper and shouted, "Is that what they think of me after I showed such amazing magic?" Her pet's reply sounded very convincing. Powerful magic proves that master is of noble lineage, but that doesn't mean you will become a great ruler. Heiser was still angry. She didn't pay attention to the pet's words and yelled at it. "You're just my familiar. Don't always act like you're right. It's so annoying." But it didn't care what she thought. It just insisted on its reward. "Anyway, I did my best to spy for Master, so please give me the promised reward, Master." Heiser cooled down a bit. She reached for the cookies on the plate and said, "I don't like the results you brought me, but a promise is a promise." The little dog looked at the plate of cookies on the table and asked with curiosity, "Oh my, they look so dry. Didn't you buy cookies from the sweet as candy shop?" Hearing that, Heiser thought to herself, so picky. Although she wasn't happy, Heiser was still curious and asked, "What is sweet as candy?" The spirit beast replied to her, "It's a dessert shop in the city center. Everyone in the mansion is talking a lot about how delicious the cookies are there." Well, it seems Master doesn't know about sweet as candy. So this time I'll make an exception and accept these cookies. Heiser was also helpless against it. She thought to herself, a spirit beast trying to bargain with its master. It seems I've been a bit too lenient with it, haven't I? But looking at her cute pet happily enjoying the food, Heiser turned her face away. Because you're quite cute, I'll let this slide." Logan, who was reading some documents nearby, spoke up and asked her, "Are you discussing the rumors with your spirit beast? It seems you've sorted it out." Heiser jumped up and replied, "Of course, I finished a while ago." Logan gently chided her, "You should have brought them to me as soon as you finished them. It seems you wanted to play more." Heiser didn't want to hear such scolding. She angrily slammed the stack of papers on the table and said, "I was just trying not to bother you because you looked very busy, you understand?" Curiosity arose when she saw the paper in his hand. "What are you reading so intently, Logan?" He answered her, "It's a letter from the royal family." Heiser asked with curiosity, "A letter?" Logan explained more clearly, "It's a letter to confirm your identity in the Epizo family, Lady Heiser." Hearing that, Heiser was extremely surprised. "Really, so am I now officially a member of the Epizo family?" Logan took off his glasses while replying to her. "That's right, but actually you officially became a member of the Epizo family from the moment the Duke made his announcement." He explained further, "Since your identity has been verified by the royal family, you will have to attend a debutante ball next spring. So before then, you must master the etiquette of a noble. Anyway, at least your appearance is passable for now." Heiser recognized the sarcastic tone in his words, so she replied with annoyance, "But I'm doing very well." Logan didn't answer her, but turned to point out a mistake in the paper she wrote. Never write the phrase "through the roof" on an answer sheet again. Heiser crossed her arms huffily and replied, "That's because you only give me ridiculously difficult questions, Logan. Anyone would get them wrong." Logan started lecturing her again. "Don't compare yourself to others, Lady Heiser. You need to become more knowledgeable, more outstanding, and more refined than anyone else." Hearing his philosophical tone gave Heiser a headache. She thought to herself, "He's nagging me again." Logan was about to continue his nagging, and, unlike others, "You must." But before he could finish, Heiser quickly changed the subject. She pointed to the stack of papers on the table and asked with curiosity, Logan, what's this? Is it also from the royal family?" Logan also answered enthusiastically, "Ah, this is the royal family's response regarding the Mansion of Shadows. It seems they want to discuss this further." Hearing him say that, Heiser guessed, could it be that they don't want to sell it? Logan voiced his thoughts, "I'm not sure, although it's nothing now. But it is an iconic manor. Of course they would be very hesitant." Heiser also focused on discussing this issue. She slammed the letter on the table and said, "You said the Crown Prince has no magic at all. Wouldn't it be better if he sold the Mansion of Shadows?" Logan continued to explain, "But if they agree to sell the Mansion of Shadows, some people will laugh at the reputation of the royal family's line of archmages." After hearing that, Heiser commented, "Can't keep it, can't let it go." Logan replied, "They have no other choice." He took this opportunity to switch back to lecturing her. Those who are in a weak position and have nothing outstanding should not make mistakes or reveal any weaknesses. Heiser knew he was referring to her, so she stood up indignantly to leave. "You're really annoying." Seeing that, Logan smiled slightly. Then he suddenly called her Lady Heiser. Heiser turned her head back and replied irritably, "What do you want now?" But her attitude did a 180-degree turn when she saw the chest of gold laid out before her. "Oh, what is this money for?" Logan replied, "This is an allowance to maintain your noble dignity until the summer." Heiser's eyes sparkled as she looked at the shining gold coins and asked, "Whose money is this?" Logan replied softly, "It's yours, my lady." Heiser was startled and shouted, "What, really? All of it?" Logan nodded and replied, "Yes, it's all yours, Lady Heiser." Heiser joyfully caressed the money in her hands. She thought to herself, "My God, how much is this worth? This must be why everyone wants to become a noble." Seeing her reaction, Logan reminded her again, afraid she would forget. "I'll say it again. This is an allowance to maintain your noble dignity. You need to spend money on clothes or jewelry to maintain your noble dignity." Hearing that, Heiser immediately asked with curiosity, "So what have you been using to buy clothes for me until now?" In her mind, she was convinced could it be a gift from the cold Duke to his granddaughter. Logan replied, "I bought them with my own money." Heiser didn't expect that answer. She replied, "I knew it," but when she focused again, she became surprised. "What, with your own money?" Logan replied, "Yes, my lady." Heiser wondered, but why? Logan also explained briefly, "It's just what I gave you. You had to borrow Sir Freddy's clothes on the first day, and that caused you a lot of trouble. It was all due to my shortcomings." Heiser held the coin in her hand, feeling a little guilty in her heart. Then she spoke to Logan, "How much did you spend?" "It wasn't just one or two dresses. We also bought very expensive noble dresses." But Logan replied, "It's okay. Do you think I can't afford that much?" Then he stood up and went to open the window. Heiser watched him, thinking to herself, "That's right, I'm sure Logan has a lot of money because he's a Viscount, but he has helped me so much, so I'm always grateful and feel indebted to him. I want to repay Logan in some way." Just as Logan was about to open the window, Heiser suddenly called, "Out, Logan." He happily turned his head to look back at Heiser. She suddenly suggested to Logan, "Can you spend a day with me?" A moment later, in the library, Logan was putting books on a shelf while thinking. "Lady Heiser wants me to take her on a tour of the city. I don't know much about this city." As he turned to walk away, he thought, "Well, I only have one option in this situation. That is to study. I have gathered all the information related to this city and memorized it all night. History, geography, prominent landmarks, tourist attractions, famous restaurants, and other things. A typical noble lady would choose to go to a salon or attend a performance. But Lady Heiser," he thought of her and found it hard to guess. "I don't know what she will choose." Logan sat racking his brain. "She makes it difficult for me to predict and prepare for what might happen." Thinking of her bright smile made him even more puzzled. "I wonder what she wants most. What does she want first? How can I adapt to her confidence and freedom? Someone who has lived a completely different life from me." Logan thought further. "This is harder than I thought." Footsteps in the hallway. He walked forward. A voice said, "I hear you're going out with that brat tomorrow." Looking at the person opposite, Sir Pierre. Hearing him say that, he thought of the previous incident. He must be wearing a hat because of what happened at the dinner before. "That," he said, allowing that fool to leave the mansion. "My father seems to have lost his mind." He refuted his words. "She has both knowledge and potential. She just hasn't had the chance to show them." Not caring about his words, he retorted, "You must be having a hard time, right? Trying to turn someone with an unknown background into a noble lady is an extremely arduous task for just a little result." He said, "I don't care about the result. I'm just following orders." He looked at him. "Right, you're that kind of person. I really like your loyalty." He approached him, patted his shoulder, and asked, "But how long will you be my father's dog? You serve the Aparo family, right?" He also said in a low voice, "You have to look at the bigger picture." He replied calmly, "I know you well." He said, "But I'm still not sure about anything." He heard him say that and narrowed his eyes. "Too arrogant." He said, "How would I dare to do that? After all, the decision is up to the Duke." He took his hand. He said coldly, "And it seems you will listen to a small suggestion from this dog." He quickly said goodbye. "Now it's time for me to go." Outside, the sun was rosy. Heiser woke up, yawning in front of the mirror, saying, "Do I need to start preparing this early in the morning?" The maid replied, "Of course, my lady. You have been looking forward to this date with Viscount Charles for a long time." She replied, "It's not a date, it's just a walk around the city, and I wasn't looking forward to anything." Dorothy said cheerfully, "Anyway, please trust us, my lady." The maid affirmed, "We will make you so beautiful that Viscount Charles will be amazed." She asked shyly, "Is it necessary to go that far?" They quickly stopped her. Come on, my lady, of course it's necessary. This is the first time you've gone out since joining the Aparo family. Hearing them say that, she also thought, now that I think about it, it's true, I should dress up nicely just this once, right? They said, for jewelry, you should wear this ruby because it matches the color of your eyes. What do you think about a pair of simple high heels to highlight your legs? Dorothy dressed her. I will tighten the belt. My princess, take a deep breath. She turned and hugged the post. The maid said, with this powder on your chest, you will look more beautiful when the light shines on it. Everyone in the room was busy preparing for her. Heiser had finished changing her clothes. She looked extremely beautiful. Dorothy had to gasp and cover her mouth, saying, oh my, you are really beautiful, my lady. Another maid also couldn't believe her eyes. It's hard to believe this is the country girl we met on the first day. I know, right? Now the young lady looks exactly like a lady from a prestigious family. They exclaimed in admiration, that's for sure. Ho ho ho. She looked at their reactions and thought, well, I like this friendly atmosphere, but it sounds like they're being sarcastic to me in the most elegant way possible. She smiled. However, I feel happy for some reason. I'm glad we can have fun and laugh together without having to be wary of each other. She felt that way. Heiser thought, I'm really happy that they finally opened up to me. The maid also said, my lady, let me spray some perfume on you. The maid approached her, sprayed it on her collarbone, and said, I wonder what perfume Sir Charles uses. He always smells very pleasant. Heiser said, I think you should ask Logan's servants, the one who is responsible for Logan's clothes. Dorothy said, he doesn't have any servants. She was surprised. Why is that? Dorothy said, he doesn't like to be touched by others. She couldn't believe it. What? Dorothy added, he even cleans his own office. She thought to herself, is he a neat freak? She clenched her fist and thought, but thinking about the actions he had taken made her feel confused. He touched me as if it were nothing. She was startled by her own thoughts. The sound of the door creaked. Someone came in and said, the Viscount is waiting for you in the living room. She clutched her dress, taking one step at a time forward. Before leaving, she turned back to look at the maids who had prepared for her. She thought, I'm sure Logan will be surprised to see my change. The sunlight shone into the palace. The beautiful Heiser walked step by step towards the living room. She looked extremely beautiful and confident. He was waiting for her. He was also handsome from his side profile. The sound of footsteps approached. Her figure gradually appeared. She called Logan. The bright sunlight also made him squint his eyes because it was so brilliant. Through his half-covered hand, he saw her figure. Heiser asked, how do I look? He looked at her appearance and asked, are you sure you want to go out dressed like this, my lady? She forced a smile and asked back, isn't it beautiful? Do I look weird? He was embarrassed. Logan coughed lightly and said, you look very beautiful, but I don't think it's suitable for a walk around the city. After saying that, he suddenly felt that he had misspoken. Heiser felt angry. He turned on his heel and left, saying, wait for me a moment, my lady. She felt confused and asked, where are you going, Logan? He said hurriedly, I'll be right back. Now she looked at her appearance again, thinking to herself, I knew it, this is too much. Before, Dorothy always comforted her. Anyway, please trust us, my lady. She thought about everyone's hard work, but everyone had tried so hard to help me become beautiful. The sound of the door opening, he said, Lady Heiser. Logan said, I think you should at least wear a pair of more comfortable shoes. She looked at them and asked, where did you get them? She looked at the shoes in his hand and said, I don't think these are mine. He knelt on one knee. He held out his hand, wanting to put the shoes on for her, which surprised her. Logan said, you haven't had a chance to wear them because they are to be used when you go out. Basically, this pair belongs to you, my lady. Heiser saw his action and said, I can do it myself. He lifted her foot and said, it's very difficult to change shoes while wearing a long dress. She hesitated and said, but Heiser said shyly, why don't you call a servant here? Ignoring her reaction, he said calmly, it's all right. Could you lift your skirt a little? She looked at him and thought, this is so embarrassing. How can he be so calm in this situation? If I'm okay then. She said, listen, Logan. She looked at him and asked, are you always this kind to everyone? She thought of his words. He always says I'm just following the Duke's orders. Whenever I feel we've gotten a little closer. Logan smiled and looked at her. Of course not. She was stunned. I didn't expect him to be this kind. Outside, a carriage was waiting for the two of them. This is a humiliation. Heiser's pet looked at its appearance and thought, how dare you make me wear this? She looked at its appearance and thought to herself, although it's always grumbling, the puppy has no intention of taking that hat off. I guess the puppy doesn't really hate it. The coachman announced, we are about to arrive at the Rose Square, my lady. She looked through the carriage window and felt, wow, it's so crowded here. She looked around, but I don't see any roses. He looked at her and asked, "My lady, do you remember what the Aparo family crest is?" She replied without looking at him, "Do I have to study, even when I'm on a tour? I can list everything about the Aparo house even." In my sleep, she suddenly noticed something. Heiser suddenly thought, this square is called Rose Square because the Aparo family crest is a rose. This is the city of the Aparo house. If I were still Heiser Root, I probably would never have witnessed these sights in my entire life. She thought of her poor village from before. Everything is so unexpected. I have left my small village and entered the world of the Aparo house, a place I never knew existed. She touched the door. The carriage stopped. Steps were neatly arranged. He got down first and extended his hand. Logan received her and said, "Let's go, my lady." She held her pet and said, Logan. The driver left, saying, "I will be back in the afternoon." The dog watched the carriage leave. Seeing its reaction, she asked, "What's wrong, puppy?" It replied, "I can smell iron and steel." Seeing this, he explained, "There's a weapon shop nearby." She petted its head and said, "Wow, you can smell the weapon shop from around here? You really are a dog, aren't you?" It quickly retorted, "I'm not a dog, I am a wolf. How many times have I told you?" The two of them blended into the crowd. He walked beside her, thinking, "I'm glad I used sound magic on the pup." "PY?" She asked it, "So, do you want to go to the candy shop now?" Its eyes sparkled. "What? You mean that famous dessert shop?" "Of course, let's go." It quickly jumped down from her arms. "Put me down, I'll lead the way." He sighed. "I can't believe you want to go to the dessert shop first." He said, "This is a good opportunity to observe the charm of this city and learn about its history." Hearing him say that, it yelled, "Shut up, you brown-haired guy." She also chuckled to herself. She thought to herself, "I know that Logan is the one who likes the dessert shop more than anyone." Yesterday, she went to the kitchen and asked, "What is Viscount Charles like?" She thought, "I guess books, studying, memorizing, scolding me, and that sort of thing." But the maid thought, "I don't know, ma'am. I'm not even sure if he likes anything." She sighed. "Even Dorothy doesn't know? He's a person too. He must have something he likes." She thought, "Maybe he likes money and jewelry." Dorothy quickly said, He's quite simple even though he has a lot of money, so I don't think he likes them." The chef laughed loudly. "Neither of you knows?" She asked loudly, "Do you know something?" The chef said, "Of course I do, my lady. He may not desire material things, but there's no way he doesn't have his own tastes." He said, "I've been cooking for him for many years, so I know what he likes to eat." She summarized, "Oh, that's right, you're right." She asked, "So what does Viscount Charles like to eat?" He said mysteriously, outside the shop. It was very crowded. The two of them sat inside the shop facing each other. A staff member was pouring tea. She thought about what the head chef had said. Head chef Bosher had said that Logan often puts a lot of sugar in his drinks and that he loves chocolate lava cake. But is that really true? The things he supposedly likes were displayed on the table. She said, "Let's try them." She also set aside a plate. "This is yours, puppy." She took a bite of each, and he also savored them. She was extremely surprised. She asked, "What do you think, Logan?" The puppy also said, "This is it. Now, this is what you call sweets." He ate very elegantly. Logan said, "It's really delicious." She felt happy. Bosher was right. He said, seeing the way Logan was enjoying himself proved what Bosher said, really loves to eat sweets. Thank you for watching today's video. Our story continues with many exciting developments ahead, so don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to support us and not miss the latest episodes. We wish you moments of relaxation and fun. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.